Yeah.
All right. Hello and welcome to episode 56 of Nerds and Words. I get the distinct pleasure to be your host today, Tim Allen, 1337, also known as Bill Jackson. Today I am joined with Potion Shop TV
Hello, it is I.
and Bless Unleashed #1 fan, Moreland TV.
It's good to be back in your office, Bill.
We've got, I know I say this every week, but I actually mean it this week. We've got a lot of shit to talk about. We've got a lot of games to talk about. We've got a lot of things to go over. So I think the best way to do this, unless you want to jump into BDO, or maybe we do that through what you did this week, Potion. We'll start there.
Yeah, so this week was like a week of transition for me because I did my Infinite stream, then I played a whole bunch of New World. I made 45 videos for New World.
What?
Most of them are just like gameplay videos, right? But I wanted to capture something like every rotation in the game, for like Ironwood, Weirdwood, like all that stuff. I recorded almost every single dungeon in the game, I think, but one. All the group grind spots. And so I went through and made 45 videos. And the plan was for it to go all the way through New World launch, but they changed that. So now I don't have enough videos anymore. So right now they're releasing through September 2nd. From now until then, one a day. I think I'm going to add in some BDO videos in there to make it where it'll last a little longer. Because I do want it to last all the way to New World launch. As far as this week in BDO, just getting back to like the normal stuff for me. Like I've been going for hard cap energy in the game still, and getting prepared for Corsair Awakening, which is around the corner. So, but that's about it for me.
Moreland, how was your week?
Do you have analytics on like who watches every one of those videos? Do you have people who like? Does it seem like people go and search individual topics, or do you actually have like hardcore Lotion Shop fans that watch like every single day? They watch your shit.
I do think there are like probably like you gotta understand. Lotion Shop is a really small brand. It's not like a Potion Shop brand. It's people don't. There's not a lot of fans. So there's like maybe 30 to 60 people who are like people who like will watch one of my videos. And then aside from that, anything additional comes from the topic itself being interesting, or something they want to watch. And right now I don't think there's a lot of traction there because New World's not actually released or playable right now. So I kind of expect that those videos will get a little bit more traction once it gets closer, because I think a lot of people are going to be looking for gameplay videos to stream. And if I can get into some streamers' DMs and be like, hey, look, just like if you want to watch any of this stuff, I got like 10 hours of it, right? So I don't know. I don't really know how the Lotion Shop brand is going to work long term. The whole purpose of it was to try something new, and I just put out videos that I wanted to make, but I didn't feel like they were high quality enough to be put on my main channel, my main brand. So it gives me an excuse to do what I want to do without the repercussions of like losing followers or subscribers or anything like that. I don't really have to worry about that.
Are you doing commentary when you show like a mining rotation, or is it just raw footage?
So the later videos, I near the end I was making literally like I think like 8 videos a day. So a lot of the gameplay videos are just gameplay. I have I think about 7 right now that are like commentary. My normal videos, what I do is I put commentary. They're like a 5 to 10 minute thought about some subject to help people in some way or form. And like the gameplay footage, like simple what I did is I did a video of every single polyforest rotation. There's 5 of them. And so I did a video on all those and recorded the exact amount of trash that I pulled with a blue loot scroll, so anybody can know what they possibly can pull there. And so, is there a big audience for that? Definitely not. But there's definitely a few people out there who want that information, and there's no one else out there who can give that because it's just not worth their time to make a video on all 5 rotations, right? So it's just something for fun, and like one thing I want to do eventually with it is I want to have enough videos where I can actually have it playing in the background. When I'm doing my Infinite stream and I'm sleeping, right? So then I can actually have gameplay running. So that's kind of like a secondary purpose of that, and then they'll also duel really well with New World and all that stuff. So I can, I can probably do one of these Infinite streams with New World at some point, and have footage in the background as well.
Well, definitely if it's like specific gathering rotations in New World, that's exactly the kind of thing that like people will look up. So that's interesting.
Yeah,
We'll see
thanks
how
for
that.
ruining our game, man. Now we're not going to be able to gather anything.
I did one for literally. I covered all the best rotations that I found. I think I tried doing like 2 or 3 for all the top stuff.
You literally withheld that information from us just to make videos about it later.
This is true.
Constant problems in this guild. Everyone withholding the information.
So I know you got into the posse conversation last night a little bit, but outside of that, Moreland, how was your week, buddy?
Jesus, dude, I don't even remember when this week started.
Right?
So what did we do? We ended New World, and then I played this new game called Tribes of Midgard, which started out being super fun, and then made me want to rip my face off once I was like 6 or 7 hours into it. Probably gonna go back and play it again now that I've calmed down. But holy shit, I was mauling towards the end there. That was super fun. That was like a survival Valheim type kind of game that you play with your friends. That I played all day a couple days ago, and then yesterday I played Bless for 17 hours because that launched. And I said I was going to skip it, but the game was so fun on Xbox, I couldn't skip it. So I ended up playing it all day, and now I'm continuing to play it today.
I actually didn't really have much faith in Bless Unleashed, but I've been watching you. I probably watched like 5 hours of just like gameplay here and there, and I gotta say, there's obvious parts where they didn't get finished, optimizing or like rounding out the game, but it feels like a good game. Like it looks like a good game. Like there's not anything that I could tell you after watching your stream that I was like, that's bad. They should change that. There's not like one thing, and almost every game you play or watch, you can pick out one thing like that, and I just can't really pick out one thing. Like everything is like, well, you can explain that because of low budget, or you can explain that because that was part of the assets that they bought or whatever.
I think the game released in a very complete state. Actually, I don't. It doesn't feel like it lacks polish or anything like that. There's some UI problems being a console port, but it's more like weird formats. It's not like it's bugged or anything. Like the shit works. It's just awkward. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone had faith in the game. I certainly didn't have faith that the Blessed devs were going to come up with anything good, but I'm pretty sure the people who made Unleashed are not the same people who made Online, and I wish I could do like an interview with them or something to talk about like what the crossover is there, because it's fundamentally a different game than Bless Online. It's not a remaster or anything like that. It's a completely different game with the same IP. So, yeah, I've been enjoying it. The Twitch chat has been just fucking miserable to deal with. just the worst I've ever had to deal with in 5 years. But I mean, the game itself is excellent. Once you can get past all the interactions.
So I watched for quite a bit too, and I actually went through a couple different streams because just at like face value, I don't like the way the game looks. I don't like the animations. I don't like the art style. I don't like how closed in the environment feels. It feels kind of like Neverwinter, but with like a Korean MMO.
It literally looks exactly the same as New World. You're so fucking funny, dude.
The textures, there's something about the textures or the art or something. I know you're going to have a problem with me not liking this, but there's something about it. Arcade kind of suffers from the same thing to me. There's something about Terra, all those games. I just have like this thing against the way most Korean games look and their cash shop and stuff like that. You couldn't pay me to play that game just by the way it looks. I'm just not interested
at all. It literally looks exactly like New World.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks and sounds Korean, man, with all the pop-ups and the blings.
It literally
everything.
Doesn't even look a little bit Korean. It looks like a Western MMO, and it looks very similar to the one you just played last week.
Absolutely.
Some of the armor sets are the same exact armor sets as the one you were just wearing in New World.
What are you?
Yeah,
I think you normally have such
look
good
at my character right now.
I think there's a lot
Korean? What are you talking about?
I think there's a lot of similarities for sure between New World and Blessed Unleashed. For sure. Like if
What?
you look at them, like they actually have a lot of, now the graphics, I can totally agree with Tim on the graphics side. Like it's something to do with like sometimes the lighting looks extremely realistic, almost like New World or better, and then there's other times where it looks like it's like went back to Final Fantasy 14 or something like that, and it just there's like if like flip flops back and forth, it's just inconsistent. And like part of it is like you're mining these little rocks, and the rocks you're mining are like these little tiny chunks, and you're like, "Aka! Aka!" It's like it's this little tiny rock. You're going ham on it, and there's little things like that. And I don't think I could point at this one thing that would be like that's the thing that I don't like. But I can definitely point at the things that I do like. Like you fought this like ogre thing the other day. Or maybe I watched somebody fight this ogre thing the other day, and it just looked like the lighting on it looked good, like the animations on it looked good. It had like good mechanics where you don't stand here and this like slime stuff. Like I think honestly, like it definitely lacks that AAA polish, but I don't think anybody should expect that AAA polish, right?
So to me it looks like Terra. No, it looks like Arcage and Ashes of Creation had a baby. That's what the game looks like to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't get that feeling at all. I hate the look of Arcage and Terra. I mean, that's one of the reasons I hated Elian.
You really don't get those
washed
vibes?
out, soulless
Yeah.
feel. I don't get that vibe from this game at all. No.
I really tried to pay like really good
I
attention.
think this is like one of the most comfy like leveling experiences I've ever had in an MMO. I think the environments and the cities and everything are super well crafted.
I could just be burnt out from that kind of shit. I don't know, but I just every time I watched a couple different people play it, and I couldn't wrap my head around it. Honestly,
I do think
I
the
definitely
world. I think the
that,
world design's
it could
good.
benefit from a shader or something.
Yeah.
maybe the way a game looks is really important to me. I know that for sure. Like AOC, I won't play that because it looks like dog shit. It's clunky and weird and poorly animated. And then a lot of these Korean games with their like cringy pop-ups and blinging all the time and their washed out textures. I don't really enjoy that either. And that's why I was surprised I actually ended up BDO looks beautiful. That's what drew me into it. And then I got into the gameplay. I mean, the girl's got to look good, then you get to know her, right? I mean, that's how I work at least. I don't know.
Yeah, I can definitely I can understand where you're coming from the graphics side of things for sure. And like the graphics are like maybe lighting, shaders, like something along those lines could definitely go a long way in that game. I do think that the world crafting though, like the world itself is actually like really like one of its selling points for sure. Like once you get into it, I feel like it gives you the whole new world feeling as far as like you feel immersed in the world. If you look at a trailer of New World and you look at a trailer of BDO, you'd be like, oh, I want to play BDO. But when you play both games, you get way more immersed in New World than you would in BDO. And I feel like Bless Unleashed has that same quality where it's like once you're into it, you get immersed into it a lot better.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, the whole reason I even tried this game on Xbox is because I was sponsored to play it, right? Like, it didn't look good when I just saw it from the outside, but once I actually played the game for 2 hours because I was paid to, I suddenly I got really immersed in it. I actually really enjoyed my time in the game, and the next day I wanted to keep playing, even though I wasn't sponsored anymore.
Mm-hmm. And it's like kind of like it's like a quality I don't know really know how to explain. Because like it's sort of like I don't know, people get immersed in Pokemon Go, and it's there's not enough in a game world, and you're just like, how is that possible? But they make tons of money off it. Everybody loves playing it. People get super immersed in capturing their Pokemon, going to gyms and stuff like that. And it has that same quality, but you can't wrap your head around that until you play it. It sounds outrageous, and then you play it, and you're like, well, I kind of want to do this all day now.
Well, I think there's a bunch of things that work together to the game's benefit, and that when it comes to immersion, and I think a lot of those are like kind of overlooked. Like people don't realize how purposely crafted that sense of immersion is. It has to do with like how hard it is to heal in this game, and like the actual danger of combat, and the pacing of combat, and the way that which animations you're locked in or which animations you're not locked in when you're in combat. Like similar to how Dark Souls will punish you from locking into the wrong weapon swing. There's a lot of stuff that pulls you into the game and forces you to kind of focus on what you're doing in a certain way. That creates that sense of immersion, and then that combined with the lighting and the atmosphere and the music and everything else, it's definitely not like an asset flip or a cash grab or like something that they just put through together in Unreal Engine and then slapped an IP on it. Like, this is clearly something that was made with a lot of design intent behind it and delayed multiple times to get it right, and the end result is very good. Like, anyone who actually plays it, I think you can't deny that there's something here, even if it's not exactly your type of game.
Yeah, for sure. Was there anything else that you've knocked out this week, or is that about it?
I think that's about it. What did we do at the end of New Worlds? I guess we just kind of did a couple more sieges and then complained about the servers.
Yeah.
I pushed really hard for 180 engineering because I was trying to unlock like how
Well, hold
exactly.
on. I'm sorry. If I can, real quick. I've got like this little side thing I want to talk about. Is there anything? Did we cover Bless? Are we good with Bless? Can we move on to something? We're trying to move to New World. I just want to make sure organizationally. Okay, so I just want to go over what I did for my week, and then I want to jump into New World if we can do that.
Sure.
So the second New World ended. I actually didn't play on the last day. Instead of playing on the very last day, I thought I was going to start some PvP, but the server was like actually fucking dead. It was just a bunch of plebs. It was curb stomping and 1v1s. So I logged off and actually got on to GTA 5 RP. And as a Twitch streamer, it's like always been, in the back or the front of your mind, especially. I know Afro through Blade Boquez and hanging out with him at TwitchCon and stuff. And so he's big in NoPixel and all that stuff. And then I put a whitelist app in for NoPixel, and I didn't get it there because I had no idea what I was doing. But I'm on you remember PUBG from Arsha? He's big in on the server. I think he's like QA on it or something. And so it's a bunch of British people, but I have been having an absolute fucking blast in a way that is hard to describe playing GTA 5 RP. I had to, I put in this whitelist app. There's all these rules and stuff on, you can't just come up and kill people. But like how we talk about like social interactions and stuff, like that's all this is. And it doesn't have to be some big famous thing or some massively staged content. Just like when I'm out here picking apples for money or something, somebody will come up to me. Or earlier today, I robbed a house, found weed, but I don't know who to sell weed to. And so one of my friends, Bing Lee, walks up and he was fucking with me. And I'm like, hey, man, you want to buy some weed? And he's like, hold on, let me call my phone. And so he calls his friends, and then somebody else drives up and buys the weed off of me. And then there's cops pulling me over for running red lights and stuff. And I got arrested, and I was a getaway driver. And the way the law enforcement works, like the NPCs are called locals, and they can actually like rat on you doing something illegal. And then the real life player police department is notified and then comes out and tries to arrest you. And there's like real laws here and stuff. It's actually insane. It's super fun. And everybody's constantly in character. There's almost never a character break. Most people are just kind of playing themselves, or maybe like an accentuated version of themselves. But there's a couple people that have like really good characters. There was this, I don't know. I don't want to get like super into it, but it was really fun. I'm probably going to cut some of the footage and put a YouTube together. Honestly, just for my own.
Yeah, that does sound pretty fun. I've been wanting to watch you do that. I've just been so busy streaming for 16 hours straight. But that definitely, like, it's reminiscent of how people would spontaneously act in older MMOs when things were kind of more open-ended and sandboxy, and people would just sort of spontaneously start to play out characters or play out scenarios and come up with like, rules of engagement. We had a bunch of RP guilds on UO that were all war decked on each other, meaning like you could kill each other anywhere at any time in the world. But they had these very detailed rules of engagement, and like, you couldn't actually just run around murdering each other. You had to have a reason to do so. And like, there was rules about looting and, like the way you could interact. And that was some of the most fun I ever had in an MMO, was playing in those RP communities. And so I don't know. It seems like in a fantasy game, there's almost like a stigma around it, like it's too weird or nerdy. But for some reason in GTA, because you're playing like characters in quote unquote like real life, people are more open to it, and it's like blowing up in popularity. So that's really interesting to me. It's something I've wanted to check out, but just haven't had the time.
So there's one of the coolest parts of it in the way to like get integrated, because you just drop in and it feels like Star Wars Galaxies or something. Like you just have no fucking idea what to do or where to go. And so PUBG took me around, and I've been hanging out with his gang. He doesn't have room in his gang, but I'm like a hang around, I guess is the technical term. And so I've got a cell phone. Like I just got a text message right now from people I meet. You can text and call and stuff. Lamau, what's your name? But you can post on Instagram. And every time you post on Instagram, a little pop-up comes up of the post. And so I'm like, holy shit. So I'm Bill Jexton, right? I took that name that I made up. I'm basically I bought a Porsche and I named the license plate Wife Banger, and I just shit post on Instagram. I've got this big fucking ugly nose. I'm really stupid ugly. And I just post like, just fucked your wife, Lamau, get fucked nerds. I just deposited $5,000 in the bank and shit like that. So and I'm wearing like a flamingo shirt and stuff. So everybody knows who I am within like 18 hours of me being in this game, just shit posting about fucking people's wives. And now I'm driving around in a Panamera Turbo with Wife Banger as the license plate. And so just walking up to people and all that kind of stuff is super. I had to buy a different car because when I was doing crimes, I'd get made, because I'm always posting on Instagram about it. So I can't do crimes in my Wife Banger Porsche. I had to buy a pickup.
What's the size of the server that you're on?
There's 130 cap. So NoPixel, I think, has 200 or 150. And like it's actually a British server or based in Europe. So there's a bunch of Europeans on here, but it's all English. So so like being an American is kind of weird. But it's super fun. I actually like it way better than if it was like an all-American server, because I kind of have to fit into what they're saying. And there's a bunch of just like really fucking just impossible to understand accents.
Hey, Mark, so this guy wearing around, all right?
They don't move their jaw, lips, or tongue when they talk. The most they move their mouth is when they say the word diabolical. Jamie over there, diabolical. Yeah, it was, wasn't it?
Oh my god!
So it's like really good, wholesome fun. I hate the fucking cops here. There's some of them that I told one to touch grass. Man, he pulled me over for running a red light at it was like real time. It was like 11 in the morning. There was 30 people on the server, and he's pulling me over because I ran a red light. I'm like, it's GTA, right? And so he's like, well, we ran a red light. I'm like, is that illegal? He's like, I'm gonna take your license away. Wow, like what? I'm like, you can't even get in a car if you don't have a license. So I'm like, no, literally everybody, cops, everybody runs red lights. He goes, well, you better stop doing that. And so apparently this guy's known. Lieutenant Berger is known to be a fucking hard ass. He's been playing a cop for a long ass time.
He's the hard ass cop.
Yeah. And so there's some cops like
Lieutenant Berger's?
Lieutenant Alex Berger with ease, like a German.
Of course.
Yeah. But so like I'm getting to learn these cops, and I got in a fight with a rookie cop. Somebody had a gun to my head, and I turn around and this rookie cop is like, he's Jamaican, and he's like, what's going on? And I'm like, he was my friend, but I just wanted to see what he would do. He just had a fucking gun to my head. He's like, oh, I didn't see anything, sir. Would you like to press charges? You didn't fucking see it. What's going to happen? And so I just like spit at his feet. I just went, and he arrested me for that. And we had like this big long conversation. I'm like, you really want me to tell your superiors that you didn't see a man have a gun to my head when everybody there saw me have a gun to my head? You're going to look like an asshole. So you can book me and you can look like an asshole, or we can just call this a misunderstanding and wipe the slate clean. So he let me go. And so like these interactions are insane, man. They're absolutely insane. I got arrested twice. I was Mirandized. Mirandized?
What happens if you get arrested? Do you like lose your character eventually if you go to jail, or
I don't really know. No, so the only way that I know you can get perma'd is if you sign a blood contract with a gang, is the way you get, and then you betray them. They have the power to perma your character. But outside of that, like, I don't know what jail really is, actually. Oh, the casino's opening. Fuck yes. So there's a real life casino and shit too. You play blackjack and lose a shitload of money. Dude, it's been insane. I've been obsessed with this.
It seems like one of the core systems that you have that's going on there is literally just like consequences for your actions.
100%.
I feel like that's the thing that's missing from a lot of these sandbox games. Like if you know, what's one of the problems we had playing something like Last Oasis is there really wasn't any downside to just being like a fucking cockroach in enemy territory and just griefing people, you know, with like linen gear and clubs, you know. There wasn't really any long-term consequences to your character. And in these older games, I think like the consequences used to be a reputation, right? Like if you were a cunt in Ultima Online and people found out about it, like you could get legit blacklisted and like the top guilds wouldn't deal with you. A bunch of players would just kill you on sight. Like they could actually make the game miserable for you. And I don't think that those consequences really exist in a lot of games anymore. So when you have that structure where everyone's playing on a server and they agree to like, you know, what's going to happen if they don't act right, then you have way more interesting interactions.
Well, there's an economy here too. So like you need somebody who's like stood in a specific garage to turn. Oh, fuck. I'm trying to break into a house and I just broke all my lockpicks. You need somebody who's been standing in that garage long enough to be an experienced mechanic, and then he can like soup up your car and stuff. And there's an economy. Like I have to go to that mechanic, and he has to be online so I can get the lockpicks from him, so I can break into houses, and they break, so I have to keep buying them. And so there's actually a really cool economy. There's a bunch of different ways to make money. There's plenty of people that are there's like relationships on here and stuff. People are, you know, married. They just hang out at the strip club. I've been hanging out there quite a bit. You know, so there's people that like don't do crimes and they're just socialites kind of. So yeah, I could talk about this for hours, man. I can't believe like it's not just the, you know, holy shit, I'm doing RP, everybody come watch me thing. It's completely and amazingly fun if you're just not streaming at all and don't care about that shit. If you can get whitelisted on a GTA 5 RP server, 100% do it. And this one was just wiped, so I'm not at like a huge disadvantage outside of relationships.
See, like I want that, but I want that in a fantasy game. You know what I mean? Like that's my biggest hesitancy. I wonder if the future of MMOs is just whitelisted communities of like a couple thousand people who, you know, rather than like an actual anyone can log in here and act like a twat, like, you know, which seems to be impossible for modern companies to figure out how to deal with. I wonder if it's, you know, basically private server versions of these bigger games. Like, can you imagine if there was like a Valheim equivalent to that? You know, like if that game actually worked with 100 people in one server and you could go around like, you know, building structures and like fucking with other tribes or whatever, but there was rules of engagement that made it so that you weren't just outright griefing. Like that to me is where the potential is just the sky's the limit.
Yeah, I feel like in both cases, it requires a game company to set up rules that do that. So the reason so far it's only happened in like small communities is because, you know, it's only possible for a small community to govern a small community like that. And I feel like in your case, for it to go viral, it needs, you know, a game developer to sit down and think about how can we craft a game that's designed for RP from the ground up, right? Or how can we design a game like New World that's crafted from the ground up to have those like interactions. I mean, once someone does that though, that's definitely going to be the next big thing. Like that's a wide open market no one has conquered.
Well, yeah, I'm with you on that, but like, hear me out. GTA is like just such a perfect, like a literally perfect vessel for something like this because it has so many of the assets that you would need for like a real kind of not second life, but basically, you know, I feel like the most fun. I'm just juicing up my personality, right? Like I'm Tim Allen in a crowd all the time, you know, turn to a 10. And you know, I'm gonna be a gangster and shit. But the fantasy world thing is tough, man. You know, trying to figure all that out. I just don't know how that works, you know, but I don't have the I'm sure somebody has a vision for it or whatever. But GTA 5 is a fucking phenomenal vessel for this. And I've watched this stuff, but it doesn't come close to actually like participating in it.
a lot of the interactions that I've seen on the bigger streams were just kind of like, I don't know, they felt so like third wally to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like it just seemed like people weren't taking it very seriously, and I couldn't get into it.
So that happens on the server at like maybe about 7 to 10. So the server resets every 3 to 6 hours, depending on the time slot. So like if you have a stolen car or something, that'll reset. So there's, a reason to own things. But the cops will get a little looser at night, and they'll like come to the strip club if there's a party, and maybe they shoot their gun in the strip club. So they break immersion just a little bit, but it's also like, if you just want to kind of fuck about and have fun, then I'm picking up English terms now. Then you can then you log on there, and if you don't like that and you want like super serious, you log on a little earlier in the day. But like tonight, I'm not going to hang out with the people. You can only commit certain crimes when there's a certain amount of police officers and players online. So while the police officers are fucking about at the strip club, I'm going to break into a bunch of houses and steal a bunch of shit. Instead of just like, I spent like $5,000 getting out of jail and shit yesterday. So I need to go make money.
Yeah,
So are they gonna leave the strip club and come arrest you, or like will they know that something's going on, or does an NPC have to see you do it?
So an
how do they
NPC
react
has
to that?
an NPC. I have to be caught, right? So if I wake somebody up as I'm breaking into a house, they'll get a report, and then they decide. So the captain of the police force is pretty strict. So I'd be, if they get like one call about me breaking into a house, maybe they send like a cadet out or something. But I don't, like Alex Berger's not coming for me because of that. But when we broke into a bunch of shipping crates last night, and they must have gotten like 20 pings. We were doing it just in broad daylight, right in front of all the NPCs, and they sent out every fucking cop that was online. It just everybody showed up, and it turned into a massive chase. And somebody almost got caught, and I picked him up, and they like tased my car on the way out, and then which popped my tire, and I crashed into a building, and then we had to go into a clothing store and change our clothes and like walk casually as police are flying around us looking for us and shit. It was wild. Wild.
It does sound fun.
It's big fun, dude. It's big fun. I don't know if it's so. I guess some servers. The point I was trying to make before is some servers are a little more content driven, right? Like you can RP as I saw John Wick, or not John Wick, but what did that Keanu Reeves play in Cyberpunk? What was his name?
Johnny Silverhand.
Johnny Silverhand. So he was literally like, he looked like him. He sounded like him. And then like he made some punchline, and then he had the music queued up, and it's like, well, it looked like you just got cyberpunked, and it played, right? Which would be totally like not okay in most servers, but I guess it was fine on NoPixel because it gets a bunch of views. So like that wouldn't really be okay here, but I guess that's what that's turned into. So there's a couple different ways to do it, and a couple different servers and all that.
It seems like your quality of your experience boils down to not only the people you play with, but also the server you play on and how they manage it. It's just like a good Reddit, right? Yeah, a Reddit is either completely terrible or halfway decent, never good. But it's entirely based on how it's managed, though, right? Like I think Final Fantasy 14 is a good example of like what happens when you manage a community well. And I feel like that's like the same thing for like the GTA. It sounds like.
It's the same thing with like trying to like role play in D&D campaigns. Like it's sometimes it can be very hard to find the right synergy, because some people just want to fuck off and roll dice and don't care about their character at all, and other people are like serious about their character and want to be able to have interactions that are consequential within the game. And there's like a spectrum between those two things. And so if you have people that just want to goof off and crack jokes and don't actually want to be immersed or do any of the RP, then it can quickly go south.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it definitely takes a community, and people practice their emotes and stuff to like really make sure you're, immersed. And there's easy ways to point and clap and laugh and roll on the floor. And there's Spider-Man thing, and people get super creative with like the emotes of this. I think that's the biggest like barrier to entry of this, is learning all the different emotes and being quick to type them.
Dude, there's a group of role players on UO servers. They like jump around to different UO servers and play as orcs, and they literally have like their own language with like 150 different fucking words for like sword and fight and gold and like
That's
all
so
the common
cool.
terms that you would have. And like, yeah, when I tried joining them once, and it's like so hard. I had to have like a glossary up on my other monitor to try to like keep track of what they were saying half the time and like respond in time. You know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, I
That shit
love
was so fun though.
I love the idea that people can play a game that way, right? Like it's definitely something that I would never do, right? Like I would never have a glossary up on our side and dedicate my time to learning a second language that doesn't really exist, to, like RP. But I think the idea of enabling people to do that and having avenues for that is probably one of the coolest things, right? Like being able to tell your friends that like, you know, a story about how someone started speaking orc to you or whatever, and then you had to get a translator, and your buddy knew half orc or whatever, and then like you have this huge RP element that comes out of that. It's just fun.
Yeah, and it's like fucked up English, so like you can kind of understand what they're saying. Like if you're just a regular human player and an orc runs up to you in the woods and says give tribute, you can kind of figure out that they're asking you for golds, and they say like Yumi instead of human, and like so you can kind of understand some of the words, but then some of the other words you have no idea what the fuck they're trying to say, and like if they get upset they'll attack you, but they mostly like will try to let you get away as long as you give them like 5 gold or something, and it leads to like hilarious interactions and sometimes good PvP too.
One of the big things that this server needs right now is lawyers. And so Game Canadian was talking about Summit's gang had some like big court case, or No Pixel had some big court case that lasted like 8 hours. And so like instead of learning half orc gibberish, like you can actually sit down and like learn how to debate and be a good lawyer and stuff. And so that's what I really like about this is there's your personality and knowledge and able to talk your way out of being arrested and stuff like that. Like it's just so far up my alley, man. I'm really happy. I'm happy I allowed myself to do this.
I did a 100-person. I forget what they call it, but there's like, have you ever heard of World of Darkness? The
No.
role playing thing. So there's this different setting of like, it's like werewolves and vampires and mages and stuff, but it's all set in the modern era. And I used to go to Gen Con every year, and we would have this 100-person like LARP basically, where it was like people we would rent out a room in the convention hall. We'd go there for 6 hours a night, and there'd be all these different like political storylines going on about like one group who was trying to take over the city, or like buy out politicians, or bribe the labor unions or whatever. And it was all just like your personality as a player, not just as a character, and like how you could persuade people to like do shady shit and like trick them into doing something that was in your interest when they thought that it was something that was in their interest. And that was some of the best fun I've ever had too, man. Like I just fucking RPing with a bunch of strangers at Gen Con.
I want to see.
And that was all in person too, so some people would like dress up for it.
Do you think we're going to see like a resurgence of that because of like GTA Online? Do you think that we're going to see more games like that in the future?
I would think so. I'm kind of surprised that there hasn't been more companies trying to take advantage of the kind of like more open-ended, sandboxy, player-driven type of thing. Because like you just need to give players the tools to make the content, right? Like that's a lot less work in some sense than actually having to pump out content yourself, right? It's the whole sandbox versus theme park thing. And I'm kind of surprised that we haven't had more of that. I've been, for the last 10 years, I've been shocked that nobody's made a proper sequel to Minecraft, whether it's the actual Minecraft devs or some competitor. That's something that I look at and just go, do people not want to be billionaires? Like that just seems like such an easy formula to to capitalize on. So yeah, I mean, I would think there's going to be more stuff like this, but who knows?
That's a good. The Minecraft thing is a good example because it's so popular, and it doesn't seem like that'd be hard to copy, but then it still doesn't exist.
It's made by like 2 guys.
Yeah.
Like, imagine what a AAA studio could do with that format.
I can't believe this. The amount of fun, the amount that it blew up on Switch, and the amount of fun that I've personally had. I can't believe there hasn't been like Red Dead Redemption 2 or whatever. Red Dead 2, they've got a RP for that. I watched a little bit of that because we met all those RPers, right? Purple was just a shitload of Twitch RPers, and so we all followed each other back and stuff. And I was watching some Red Dead, and that's like a good world. Like it really needs a game. Really needs some depth to it. I think that's another Rockstar game, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so, isn't it?
Yeah. So the game just needs depth, I think, to really pull off RP because you need that to be able to dig deep into it. And I think that's what a lot of these communities really look for. But it would be great. It would be great because it really solves and scratches that sandbox itch. You fly in, as the terminology is, and you hit up the boys and just kind of figure out what you want to do.
Yeah, I'm actually sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm actually really surprised that Cyberpunk didn't do a roleplay. I feel like after you get everything optimized, that would be the perfect like successor to GTA Online for like RP. Like you literally customize all sorts of weird things about your character in that game.
GTA is so much better. Even after just playing GTA for a few hours, it's so much better of a game than Cyberpunk. I'm not surprised at all that people haven't moved over. Cyberpunk is way too restrictive compared to GTA, I think, like in terms of what you can actually do.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that was one of the biggest the barometers that it was held up against too. It's like, well, is this world like really compared to GTA 5 that came out, 8 years ago or whatever?
Right,
10?
exactly.
And I think that was fair.
But I mean, to kind of segue into New World, I think that's we were talking off stream about potentially making the New World guild into an RP guild, like to actually take that more seriously when New World comes out and like actually RP in that game.
We
and
could
fuck around a bit more. But see, the problem is, again, dude, it kind of comes down to consequences. And this is where, like, I've been beating this dead horse for years now. But the fact that those devs did such a hard turn away from the open-ended PvP thing and into the theme park opt-in PvE, like, if it's very hard to properly RP in a world where you can't actually enact consequences on people who don't act right.
Very true, right? Somebody tried to steal my car and I pulled a gun on him. Right. I wasn't allowed to shoot him unless he did something crazy, but he had to comply. I caught him trying to hotwire my car, pulled a gun. He had to put his hands up and had to do what I said. And I could have kidnapped him and done all this kind of shit. So you're right. If you can't enact consequences on people yourself, it actually really is hard to RP.
Yeah. I was trying to think about how you do that in New World. It's like, well, I mean,
can't.
You could like, I don't know, mob spawn, like, or camp some mob spawn, right? And make sure no one ever gets it. But like, that's about the limit you could do. I don't know. Or maybe make a wall in front of like a dungeon so people can get in a dungeon.
There are no consequences anymore. If you turn PvP off in that game, you are untouchable. Like you can just go freely, leech XP off people and act like an asshole and steal, materials. You can do whatever you want.
Yep.
Yeah, New World, right? We should segue into that. I'm sorry, did I cut you off, Potion?
Oh, yeah, I definitely agree. We should definitely jump into it. Like, what was like the big takeaway, like, for you guys?
Yeah, should we start with like wrapping up our whole experience, maybe?
What part do we want to talk about? Like, for me,
the wrap up for me is the game is so fun and still so far away from actually meeting its potential. It's almost like shockingly similar to BDO in that regard.
Yeah,
like there's such a good foundation and so much of it is just being fucking squandered, man. Like they're just not making use of the systems that they could be making use of.
Yeah, I actually like kind of I'm a little afraid. It's like I have PTSD from BDO. I'm like, I've been here. I have this same sensation where it has this incredible foundation. I love the game. But it is a game that I have hope for, and I feel like BDO has proven me my hope misplaced too many times now. I feel like I had this crazy thought about BDO after playing New World. Is like the amount of work that BDO has to put in now for me to have any type of trust in them again is astronomical, right? I mean, like even if they made good change after good change after good change after good change, I mean, you'd have to have a list a mile long for me to regain trust at this point. After playing New World and seeing like just what they were able to do in such a short period of time, like I don't know, like I have a lot more trust in a new company rather than I've been proven wrong for 5 years now about where they can take the game in BDO, and that was kind of like the one thing that like stuck with me super hard after going back to BDO and playing it. But I guess
So
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like, people keep coming into my chat and asking me like, "Oh, are you going to come back to BDO now that they, added like turning in Blackstones for fail stacks?" And it's like, no, probably not. Like it's not any one thing. It's this like it's years and years of built up baggage. And
Yeah.
New World, I feel like, is in much more of a position to where like if they just pulled their head out of their ass, they actually could fix that game in 2 months. Like people asked if I thought the delay was going to make a difference, and I mean, honestly, it could. An extra 4 weeks could be the difference between that game launching feeling complete or not if they do the things they need to do. I just am quite, I haven't seen the evidence that they know what those things are exactly. They know some of them, but there's still some very obvious things that haven't been fixed since the preview. Like influence questing is probably the number one issue with that game right now, and it's the same issue that it's been in the since the preview. And the fact that they haven't addressed that is kind of, it's hard for me to maintain hope that they know what they're doing when they can't address something that's so glaring.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that.
And it definitely is like a fun drain from the game for sure.
And such an easy fix, like actually a 2-day fix if they just buckled down and thought of how to fix it, right? So, I mean, I hope they will. I hope they're listening to all the people raging on the forums. It could be a phenomenal game in 2 months, but given what happened in the last 11 months, we'll just have to wait and see.
So for me, the way I kind of want to wrap up my experience is I think overall the highlight of the game for me was the community that we're able to put together, and how well we all kind of got along. I mean, there was like 100 and something of us kind of playing at different times and shit. So, we all didn't get to intermingle with each other, but 20 to 40 of us would be in a channel like Kerr said, right? Just get on and hang with the homies. And so that scratched an itch that I didn't realize how much I missed. As far as the actual gameplay and stuff, I knew it was going to be more competitive than preview. Preview wasn't extraordinarily competitive. But I think I underestimated the I underestimated how much people had been playing. How much people have been playing in the alpha. So it was a little more difficult than I thought it would be. But that was a good thing. It made me kind of buckle down and learn as much as I possibly could. And we had a bunch of gamers and stuff like that. So, man, that'd be a tough game to play by yourself. I don't know how much fun it would be to like just boot up the game, go, hey, looking for guild. Like that would be tough. I feel like that's probably the experience of BDO too, or any MMO. But the lag is probably the biggest thing that I'm concerned about. I'm with you on the influence thing, but I've just got such PTSD about like the main PvP event being destroyed by lag that I really want to see that sorted quick.
Yeah, that's also I would say the most critical thing. If those sieges on launch feel like they did in beta, then no one is gonna take the game seriously past the first month. I mean, why would you when all your hard work can just get deleted by a server shitting itself?
Yeah. Yep. And we're doing all this organization and trying to figure out who does what and where and how much money we can make as quickly as possible. And then, just some group of idiots can come up and lag us out and take it all away. That's scary. But we have to hope for the best. We kind of have to prepare. That's the adage is hope for the best, plan for the worst. But in this case, we have to hope that they actually get their shit together and plan for that too. So that's a little scary, as the guy who organizes all this stuff and tries to keep the peace. That's definitely in the forefront of my mind. Is the first time that we get dropped on. If we get lagged out and lose it, that's going to be a huge fucking sack on morale.
Yeah, for sure.
I do, one good thing, like, I don't think this is a good thing for the game, but good for, like, preventing that, is at least right now the game is not balanced properly for low levels fighting against siege for defending. So if we do take a territory, we're going to basically almost automatically win for defense because this is so unbalanced for early game. So at least we'll have that, like, buffer there. I think another thing that is going to kind of like show up be a problem for siege late term is, imagine you have a territory and you have almost everything tier 5. Right, you've made this center hub. It takes the same amount of effort to take your territory if you have nothing upgraded or if you have everything upgraded. And I feel like that is that's going to be something that's going to be a bigger issue as time goes on.
What do you mean? Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, imagine.
Yeah, well, there's a little bit of scaling, right? Because you can build up your walls and your towers to be stronger, but I didn't get a good sense for how much of an impact those things actually had. Did you guys?
The walls were definitely noticeable, but you just take them out with a cannon, so it's not a big deal. I think the repeaters and like stuff like that are like really huge. Like that was a noticeable increase in damage having those upgraded. And then having the placements upgraded also give you more of those, so it just gives you more options to, and better angles to shoot people.
Yeah, so that's going to be a tough balance for them to strike then, because on one hand, you don't want the incumbent guild to be unbeatable just because they've been there the longest, but on the other hand, you don't want people to invest all their time into something that can just easily be taken away from them, because then why would they do that investment?
Yeah, I think the main thing is the way Ash's plans on conquering this is making it where the higher tier the node is that you're conquering, the longer it takes to both deck and before you can deck again. And so I feel like they need some type of system in the game where it's a longer process of declaring war. Not necessarily increasing faction mission difficulty, but adding other things like you declare and then you have to wait 2 days for your war, and other people get to also put down their vote on it, or it costs more gold if it's a higher tier, or something along those lines anyway, where it scales with the amount of effort they put in has to be equal to the amount of effort you've also put in upgrading the territory.
That's really what it comes down to, right? Someone can put in a week of effort into upgrading something, and then you can take it from them in a single evening.
Yep.
Or you could put a month of effort and someone could take it from you in a single evening. So yeah, there has to be some bigger cost to the actual sieging guilds. I don't know if that's something that they are really going to address, though. I feel like the Amazon devs actually want territories to be going back and forth all the time. I don't think they want guilds to hold territories for a month straight.
Yeah,
with the way they've designed the game and giving you little drop rate bonuses in the areas that you hold and shit like that, I think that from their perspective, those territories are going to be trading back and forth every week.
I think it's something that probably will address like 2 or 3 years down the road, like with a huge update. They'll be like, all right, now we're finally addressing all these issues. Now you can only upgrade 4 things per town, and it's going to be way harder to take towns that are fully upgraded or something. And we're going to redesign it with the new life skills or something. I don't think it's going to be something they're going to do right away, but I think as time goes, it's sort of going to be like the whole alliance thing in BDO. We didn't know alliances were so overpowered when BDO first came out, but everybody knows that's the meta nowadays for taking a siege region. And I feel like that's going to be a very similar thing to what's happening in New World with like taking territories. Something that's not going to be immediately an issue, but over time it will become something that they probably should address.
Well, it's already built in. The identity of your tribe or your faction or whatever outweighs the identity of your guild. That's why people are like, "Oh man, or am I going to be able to get in a spot in Aftershock?" Or whatever the case is. It's like if you're our faction, it doesn't really fucking matter. If you're not actively playing and just want to participate, it doesn't matter what guild you're in. It matters what faction you're in, right? If you want to give us your stuff to further our cause and help our gamers, then do that. Do it outside the guild. And the faction will still own it. You'll still get a good bonus from that without having to worry about quote taking a slot, which is probably the number one thing I hated hearing during New World is, hey, so I'm not going to be around for 2 days. I don't want to take a slot. It's like, we're 92 out of 100, man. It's fine. Just chill.
I don't know why guilds even have max in that game.
It doesn't make sense.
Honestly, it doesn't make any sense. Yeah,
Nope.
It should be 300 if anything. I don't know why it's 100.
Right. So if they want, guild identity to really matter, then they need to. Oh my God, I'm actually going to say it. You ready? You ready? They need to put caps on mercs and siege.
Oh my God.
It's time is a flat circle, man.
Isn't that interesting though? How every siege that we even remotely struggled with in the beta, it was because of mercs. It was never because of the defending guild was actually someone who could hold up to us. They all conscripted alpha players who knew what they were doing to come and defend their cities. None of them actually defended their own. It was all mercs, the entire beta. Did you notice that?
Yeah, I did.
it was Validus in every single yellow siege. The only guild that actually defended himself was that Maple Leaf guild. Like they did pretty good. The purple guys out in Reckless, but all the yellow guys, it was the same fucking 20 mercs in every single siege carrying them.
Bro, that just blew my mind, and it makes sense
right?
too. It
How
really
about
does.
that? They need to cap. If they're gonna have 100-man guilds, right? So you either have limitless guilds, basically like World of Warcraft or whatever, or you put caps on mercs in siege.
Yeah,
and keep it at 100.
Yep, that makes sense, honestly. And you just have like 3 or 4 Marauder guilds, and that'd be it.
I mean, it'd be great too, like the way we used Pays guilds, right? The silent, we just gave them a group, and those were our mercs. If the beta ran as it was supposed to, people didn't fall off because it was beta and it was going to wipe and all that stuff. I'm sure we would have had 5 or 10 slots for his sieges, and we would have continued to give him 5 or 10. And my thought process was his 5 is going to be better than our, bottom 5, or even his 10 probably be better than our bottom 10. And so just getting that little extra edge. But like, hey, I've got a territory because I got some people who sent me money and now help me defend it, and then somebody who put in organization and hard work and direction goes in there and gets cucked because doofus fucking click the buy button. I'm not a big fan of that. But I do think that organization and perseverance will win the battle. I think that's just a battle of attrition, right? If we stay on our toes, they will fall off and we will win because that. But the fact that that's in the game and not only capable but rampant is hard to believe that it got past the devs, which
I don't think that's
pretty focused on that. But
I don't think it's like they don't have any experience in that. If there were BDO devs making New World, I'd be really surprised, right? But
as I said it, I kind of pulled it back.
Yeah,
went a little too deep.
Nothing surprised me at this point. But what do you guys think that they could do instead of the pool your gold to your Reddit GM system that they currently have now for the initial seizing of territories?
I'm not a Reddit GM.
Yeah, which is why we were like the 5th guild to get a territory.
I'm sorry, I'll fix that. That's a good question. I've thought about it a couple of times. It's kind of dumb that we just took the highest level person and just like zoomed up to Morningdale and just bought it, right? I think there has to be actions you need to do in that territory. I think were we talking about this last week or maybe Potion said something? Using that fort that's out there for the initial fight, that open world fort, and setting up some sort of skirmish or something, using that asset that's in the game. I like coming up with solutions with assets that are in the game so I can feel like, I can pressure them harder to do it because it's just sitting right fucking there. They could do more with that fort, and it could be something with that, or it could just be like massive, like another town board, right? Like Zerg this town board with all your boys.
Yeah, I think you should have to do like crafting and combat objectives as a guild in that zone. Like you should have to build up part of the town before you can have enough influence to take it over. Like the villagers in that town need to respect your guild or something, like there's an easy way you could explain it. But you have to do like at least 2 station upgrades in that town before you can even qualify to try to buy it.
I think the idea of either warring on it or trying to like defend it, right? I feel like it could be really, really easy, right? You have your company, and your company has territory standing in all regions. So, and if you don't do missions in that region for a while, you start losing territory standing, just like your character has territory standing. But instead of it just being permanent, it just slowly downgrades. So if you want to take a territory, you can get your territory standing up. You have to do faction board missions. Every guild has their own faction points from trying to declare something like that. And like you just use those systems that are already in the game, and you use that for claiming the first territory. You know, because those are already
I
there.
think that would be a lot more interesting than just pulling gold, man.
Yep.
Because right now it's literally just like, how many of my Twitch viewers can I get to send me 500 gold in the first hour of the game? That's who determines who wins. It's really not like, I don't know. Maybe Amazon wants that, but man, it's not fun.
They have to see
for 99% of players. That is not fun.
They have to see that that's a problem. I understand that there's probably, and boy, man, the Redditors are probably going to get on this, that the hat's going to be tipped a little bit to streamers. I thought the integration was cool. It didn't work at all, right? Did you see a Twitch number at all after the first day?
I just turned
I didn't try to turn that shit on.
I turned it on, but it kept disabling, or like you had to turn it on every time you log in. So I just got tedious turning it back on all the time. I tested with Ghost Rags, and basically you walk up to somebody, and then it takes a second, and it'll load their viewer number. But yeah,
I thought it was an interesting idea. You know, I'm probably going to take TTV out of my name. It didn't annoy Moreland as much as I wanted it to.
Well, it's really, stream sniping is like, those servers are way smaller than I realized in the preview. Like, you know, everyone there is to know on that server within the first 2 weeks. We're not going to be hidden. Like, everyone's going to know who the streamers are. I mean, it doesn't really matter at this point if you put TTV in your name or not. It's not like a huge server. Those communities on those servers, I think, are going to end up being like pretty tight knit, pretty incestuous.
What I really liked is I ran into a guy. His name was Nova, and he put TTV in his name because his name was taken by the time he made his character. He's like, I don't even have a Twitch. I don't give a shit about Twitch at all.
Yeah,
yeah. It's like my man. So yeah, three guys on a Saturday afternoon came up with a markedly better way to handle buying territories. And they had to think about it because they took it from 10,000 to 100,000. They went, wait, this is too easy. Let's do something else. We'll add a zero. We'll add a zero. So, I mean, you want to talk about, so thought went into it. Somebody did something about it. It came across somebody's desk and they went, put a zero on it.
That's how they make the PvE harder in that game too, though. They just add zeros to things. Like, they just make the mobs do more damage or have more health.
Most games. That's most games that are like complete Souls-like.
It's just so easy to fix.
Yeah, there are some of the newer mobs. Some of the newer mobs are a little better, I feel like. Like, there's like this Wushu guy over in Evan's Scale that you have to actually like know mechanics, get out of the way of this one. And eventually you can just outgear it, right? It doesn't matter anymore. But I feel like if you're properly, the proper level and gear for it, it just, you do have to get out of the way.
I never encountered an enemy in that game except for the guys who block with shields and you have to break their block. I never encountered an enemy where the most effective strategy wasn't to mash my light attack as fast as possible.
I think that's a big problem too, especially when the combat is definitely, you're basically bringing Souls-like combat to an MMO for what could be, at least in a AAA sense, for the first time, right? And so when you compare, about 85% of the way through on my Dark Souls run, when you compare Dark Souls enemies and the amount of enemies that are in that game and how interesting or complex, and they've got a couple different moves and it'll surprise you, right? Like going back to zombies or skeletons every once in a while, I'm like, oh fuck, that's right, they launch at you every once in a while. Something like that would make combat so much more enjoyable. It would make the leveling experience more enjoyable. Instead of the numbers being tough, the enemy should be tough.
Well, I do definitely agree that there should be more variety to the skills. I do think part of the problem might be
enemy skills.
Yeah, the enemies having like more like that randomness to it, like you said. I think part of the problem is that you just outgear all the stuff by the time you get to it. Like every single time I got to a dungeon, I outgeared the dungeon before I even went in. Like the gear that I had was better than the dungeon gear.
But when I outgear the zombies and skeletons in Dark Souls, there's more risk of dying in that game.
Exactly.
But I still consider, regardless of that, I still consider their movement and I think about it before I, just balls to the wall in there because I don't want to get caught out and look like an asshole.
And you hesitate to get too many of them built up around you, and you think about your positioning and how you're going to move through that environment. Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it, even if you're overgearing the encounter.
Yep. Yeah. So, the risk of you dying in Dark Souls is way more important or worse than New World. But that, I think it would still create that thought in your head that would make the combat at least more interesting.
I feel like that's something you can also address over time, right? That's not like a difficult fix. It's just something you have to take time to do, and they don't
I
really have a whole lot
disagree.
of that.
I think the AI on the NPCs are fucking dog shit. 3 out of 10, man. I don't think it's very good at all. I think they're way off the mark on
I don't
that.
think it's very good, but I don't think Dark Souls AIs are very smart either.
It's not about them being smart. It's about them being designed in a way that's interesting, and that the solution to the challenge that's being put in front of you is something you actually have to think about and feel rewarded for overcoming, rather than just literally closing your eyes and pressing left click.
Yeah, that one. That.
I'm not a big fan of it right now either, because all it comes down to is everybody just runs Hatchet for leveling up because it just heals you, and you run Constitution.
Yep, exactly. It's literally just a battle of sustain against the mobs. It's not rewarding to dodge or punish a mob who opens himself up or something. Like, there is no punish. There is no. You just pop a hatchet, you heal yourself up, and you spam the light attack. Of course, that's the most efficient way to level.
Yeah. I mean, I think the solution that isn't necessarily too difficult though, because it's just nerf healing across the board, make it where you do more damage and the mobs do more damage, and your block is like, I don't know, better sustained or something. Like, it's not designed very well.
Well, I mean, it's not a numbers issue. It's literally a mechanics issue. There needs to be mobs who telegraph attacks, and then when you dodge those attacks, you're rewarded with some kind of punish. Like in Dark Souls, when a mob swings at you, if you space that attack and circle around the side of it, you can backstab it and hit it for 3 times the normal damage. Like, there needs to be that kind of thing.
You do more damage,
or the mob's attacks themselves need to be so punishing that if you do ignore them, it's less efficient.
Don't you do more damage in
not
New World,
ignoring them?
There's backstabs in New World. Yeah.
Yeah, but not to the point where it's actually worth doing. You're not blocking and slowly circling around a mob to get a backstab in New World. You're left clicking it.
Yeah, but that's just because of the sustain, right? If you didn't have the sustain, you wouldn't be able to do that.
If you didn't have the sustain, you'd play another game, because it would be so fucking boring sitting there trying to hit those mobs without taking damage that what you would do is you would never level without a healer. You would just bring other people along and make them be your sustain, because otherwise you would be 10 times slower than everyone else who's out there grinding and leveling.
Yeah, but I mean, what would be their solution? I feel like that is at least the next step in getting closer to that ideal.
I mean, the solution is what I just said. It was you give the player a set of challenges when they're fighting the mobs, such that when the player does the mechanics correctly, that becomes the most efficient way to kill the mob, instead of just spamming light attacks and ignoring the mechanics.
Yeah, they're like, it's like a half measure of Souls-like combat, because the risk and reward just really isn't there. It feels like it, and all these normies have to, I get to call them normies, have to figure out, why there's so few skills? This game's boring and easy, right? You have to have that conversation. But it really is missing the back half of it, which is like the risk and reward. And as Moreland so eloquently put, the most efficient way to grind. But just to shake up the conversation a little bit, I'd never used a fucking hatchet preview. I swore that shit off. The way I grinded was almost heavy armor, and then I used Great Axe and Ice Gauntlet, and I'd group up as many mobs as I possibly could. And that made it challenging. I had like 8 to 10 or something, and that made it challenging for me and fun and rewarding to grind mobs, in the rare instance that I needed to.
Okay, Tim, you picked the 2 greatest overpowered weapons in the game. All right.
But I pulled enough mobs, and there's AoE in there to where, it was a tank build. It's not like I was crushing them. I pulled enough for it to be difficult. And so I would like that to kind of be the norm, is the point I'm trying to make.
Yeah.
You've been hanging around me too much.
Now, some of the grinding, especially the group grinding, is really satisfying. Like what we did in Scorpius, where we're rounding shit up and blasting it. Like, that can definitely be fun.
I took the boys around.
And those are elites, right?
Yeah, I took the boys around for that. It was so much fun. Everybody had fun. It came right back to me too, and I just kept spouting it off the whole time. It was like a really good team building exercise, kind of, because you had to call it. If you figure out where all the poles are, I know where they all are, and everybody's following along. And there was something relaxing in the monotony of me saying the things over and over again, and then transversely, or inversely, they were relaxed because I was thinking for them. They just had to listen, and I was basically controlling their arms, and it was a really enjoyable experience all the way through. But it just was not worth the time in gold, experience, weapon, XP, anything. It was just a
The weapon
total
XP
shit
was really
bag waste
good.
of time. Yeah, but not when you compare, just getting a streamer or two and heading out to the fort and PvPing for an hour, right? Like that weapon experience was cracked.
Oh well, that definitely
Yeah,
should
the
be nerfed.
PvP experience is definitely the best, but I mean, Scorpius was good enough weapon XP. I think the problem, it definitely needed to be more combat XP, but it was good enough weapon XP, and it was really good for standing in the region. Standing in the region
Yeah.
And consumables, tier 4 consumables. That was the reason to do
Oh,
it.
that's
And
where all
it
that
was
standing came from?
very worth it for both of those things.
But still, if you go to like every place has their elites, if you just like out level, like where were we in Brightwood, and you were soloing those, you were doing better there than you were at Scorpius. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, those
I
only
actually
T3
tested that.
consumables.
The thing is, it only works with if you're lower level. As you level up, the mobs give you less skill points. So if you're
Right,
higher
but
level,
I was
then it doesn't work
sorry.
as well. So
I was
it's
50
dependent.
something at Weaver's Fen, killing 40 or 45 elites, and I powered through my last levels of weapon experience for the last war, so I'd be 20 and 20, and like an hour and a half or something. It wasn't bad at all, and I was getting T4 pots and experience and all this kind of stuff. So, even if you're 10 levels ahead, it should be 5, but I was too afraid to go to Scorpius actually. I still think that's better than grouping up. It's just soloing down 2 or 3 at a time and rolling out from there.
I'm actually really curious, since that strategy is kind of getting out there a little bit. I'm wondering if we're gonna have to go to higher tier spots because it's gonna be too competitive at the lower spots. Because that's what happened in Brightwood. Is that Brightwood later into the game became too popular and like we couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, that Brightwood spot is way too congested. There's just like one, basically 1 or 2 sets of poles there, whereas Scorpius, you've got massive, you've got 4 or 5 times more mobs. So I think it'll become congested, but I mean that's fine. It would be nice if they forced you to flag for PvP to enter those elite areas. That could be something.
Yeah,
that makes some good content.
Lots of interesting solutions here that they could implement. Again, 2 months, plenty of time. They could do these things. Will they?
I do feel like there needs to be some part in the game that you need to flag up for, and I don't care what the developers, say that should be, but there needs to be something where you have to flag up, and there's a win condition. Like the fort not having a win condition is a problem. The win condition of a grind spot would be you get to keep the mobs. And you need to figure out something about the tent. The tent respawn is definitely a little too powerful. I don't know exactly. Maybe only limit the tent to so many respawns, and you can't build another one for an hour or something.
Well, the fact that you can put a tent 6 inches away from a fort, I don't know. I don't know why they disallow you to build tents in PvE areas, but you can actually build it literally on the entrance to the fort and instantly be inside as soon as you res. Like, hello?
And it's unlimited raises too, so you can die as many times as you want, and you never have to build another one. You never have to. There's no cooldown for building another one or anything. I feel like they definitely could tune that a little bit. What do you think they're going to actually change, though? Right? Like, what do you guys think they're actually going to change versus what we want them to change? I think those are two different things.
What a good question.
They have their known issues thing that might be interesting to take a look at. There were some things that were conspicuously missing from that list. For example, Great Axe double damage was not on the list. We found some massive bugs on the last couple days of beta in regards to the way damage is calculated in that game that are, absolutely game-breaking bugs. And I didn't see any of those on the list or people even really discussing them on the forums. So I think the guilds who have discovered those things are not reporting it and not telling the devs.
Did you report it?
Yeah. I messaged one of the CMs and I got a response from him. So, I mean, that's at least some paper trail that there, someone at some point was aware of that. I tried sending it to the New World creators email, and the guy literally gave me a canned response of just go post that on the forums. I'm I sent an email saying, hey, I don't want to post this on the forums because it's such a huge bug that it will spread like wildfire the moment I post it. and he responded by saying, "Please post all these issues on the forums." Like, didn't even read my email, right? So, and that's the new world. You've been accepted to the partner program creator email. That's not like a public email. So, you know, that type of thing leaves a pretty bad taste in my mouth. But at least the CM on the forums is acknowledging some of the issues. So if they do their job and report it to the right people, then hopefully these issues get fixed. But who knows what other things we didn't find? You know, that alpha players who've been playing for longer than us know that we don't know. That could be even worse than the shit we found.
We found one after years in your testing and all that. Basically, there's a buff that you can have on an amulet, which increases your fortify by a percentage. So it's like 14% increased duration or whatever. Well, the thing is that it basically increases your fortify indefinitely, and it doesn't turn off until you get another fortify buff in some way or fashion.
Oh, is that why Val was fucking invincible in PvE?
Yep, he literally couldn't die to any PvE content unless you went up against some raid boss. Literally unkillable.
Oh man,
he literally did all the Shattering Mountain stuff and didn't take any damage from any of them.
Excellent.
I'm so sad I wasn't able to do that testing with you. I was really curious to see how all that played out. But
so there's it's gonna be a wild trip. You can I did the math on it. You can, depending on how you calculate it, you can I don't know exactly how it's all calculated, like if it's multiple, you know, like if it's calculated and then calculated another percentage after that, but you can get down
I did a little testing on that, I can tell you.
So basically what I'm trying to figure out is I'm trying to figure out if fortify and absorb damage is calculated at the same level as everything else, and it's additive and then gets calculated, or if it's calculated as a percentage and of a percentage of a percentage and stuff. Because basically you can get 100% damage mitigation. It's possible to get 100% damage mitigation.
So I didn't test every mechanic in the game, but with the mechanics I did test, it's additive within that category and then multiplicative with other categories. So for example, medium armor and light armor, it gives you a 10% and a 20%. The 20% that you get from light it's an additive extra 10%. It's not 10%, then another 10% multiplicative. It's just 120% of your base damage.
Makes sense.
But that multiplies with your other damage modifier. So if you have something in your talent tree that increases your damage by 5%, and then a different talent on top of that increases it by 10%, all those things will multiply together as long as they're different sources.
So the faction gear, you get it at level 15, and at level 15 you take I'm trying to think of the exact number. I think it's 75% less damage from level 60 characters. It's something around that.
Dude, faction gear is so bad. They need to take that out of the game.
That's one of the number one issues I want them to fix as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just there's no fixing it, right? Like just yeet it. Just get it the fuck out.
I don't think they need to remove it. I think what they need to do is increase the cost by about 10x and then completely change the way that you get those tokens, right? Like make it actually a PvP objective. Make it so that you can't just quest in Great Cleave for a couple hours to get that shit.
Great Cleave missions are a mess.
I really think they should just get rid of it. I think it's a bad idea. Wholesale it.
Well, they want some sort of like reason. Like, what else do you spend your faction tokens on if not the gear, right? Like potion. I mean, I get they could rebalance it so that there's some part of the economy that's going to get fucked almost no matter what they do. Like our alchemist's going to get fucked. Our armor smith's going to get fucked. Like, what are you going to use those tokens for, right? There's only so many things in the game that have.
Well, it would be more fun to have like, you know, ammo be cheaper or some potions, and maybe just like you get a couple, right? Like you just have like having 10's a lot. You get one per mission that you do. You got 10 free potions. You need to go with 50. So you buy 50 and then yeet the fucking armor because that takes the fun out of the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
oh my God, I just got more weed. Fuck yes. Okay. So like, sorry, I'm robbing houses again. That's a big fucking score. I'm sorry. So so you get like 10 extra potions and all that stuff, but like it takes the fun out of the game where you just go buy the best armor. It's not crafted. Your loot doesn't matter. There's already too much loot. Like it just, that specifically causes so much problems. They just need to wholesale it and then rebalance, redesign the back end of now what do we do with this mechanic that's, we're apparently in love with.
I say like they make the final costume of every faction, Make it where you can buy that as a cosmetic that costs a ton of faction points.
Yeah,
Because that
that's an idea.
Plague Doctor thing's awesome, right? I want to
all
look
of them
like
are.
that.
All the factions have their own like level 60 look.
Yep.
It's really good. Yeah.
Plague Doctor's awesome.
The also like the Rune of Holding, I think, is an okay idea. For crafting
True,
bags,
yeah.
stuff like that. I think that the other solution to this is make it where you have to get a certain number of war declarations from the faction vendor, and then once you do that, that's a part of the requirement to actually declare war, and you can trade those amongst your guildmates only. And so that would make it add like an extra requirement there, aside from just getting gold or like completing the faction missions.
Okay.
Give it an extra little cost there.
Okay.
So something on those lines. Those are obviously just ideas. Like the true problem here with the faction gear is that it ruins the crafting. It ruins like the purpose in doing raids or dungeons, whatever you want to call them. It takes it hinders you from enjoying the most fun parts of the game, and that's something that if it's hurting the most fun parts of the game, making them less enjoyable, they have to get rid of it and then find another solution.
It's a cheat code, right? Like it's like playing. Imagine if you're playing World of Warcraft and you can buy raid gear off of an NPC. Why would you do it? Like it just takes all the reward out of the raids. Like you're not accomplishing anything when you get a good drop. If you can just buy the best shit from an NPC, it's not fun at all to just buy the best items in an MMO. Who thought that was a good idea?
Yeah. Man, I forgot about that. I really hate that. Like the whole fun of just looting is just gone. It's just gone. It's just gone.
I almost never looted an item in that game that I gave 2 fucks about the entire beta.
I got 2. I got 1 hatchet, and I guess I got a
The
quest.
weapons are okay.
Yeah.
The faction weapons aren't too crazy, but an armor piece, I don't recall any armor pieces that I looted that I gave a fuck about.
Yeah.
Nope.
I don't think there's one. I didn't get any faction gear, by the way. I didn't get a single piece. I refused to.
That's the way to play the game, dude.
Yeah. Okay. So just like out of posterity or whatever, it's just like
just to actually have fun with
protest. Yeah. That's probably not a bad idea.
Yeah, I think it's a garbage system, and I didn't enjoy that part of the game at all. I didn't even craft any of my armor, and I still had like 540 gear score when I was done, and I didn't do any faction gear. So
sometimes you do stuff like that pretty often, and I think this is the first time you've done something like that I really appreciate you doing. Like, I don't like this, so I'm not going to participate in it. But like, you actually probably had a way better experience because of it in this instance.
That was fun.
Yeah, good for you.
So I guess that we all agree the faction gear is probably the biggest thing we hope it get fixed. That might actually get fixed.
Servers, and then
servers definitely number 1. Like, I mean, but that's an engineering problem, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if they can fix that. I don't know what the solution to that is. I don't know if it's money. I don't know if it's like fire the guy who's currently doing it. I have no idea what that actual problem is. At least the design flaws of the game are extremely diagnosable and solvable in a matter of weeks if they sat down and think about them for 5 minutes.
I think they're going to be on top of those server issues because they want to sell AWS servers to like future gaming companies, right? Like they want that to be like the advertising. Like, look how good New World servers run. So I'm sure that some big high up, when they start seeing some Reddit post or Twitter post about how bad the servers are, they're going to be like, hey. Fix this pronto. We gotta go.
That's what I thought was gonna happen, honestly, man. When I played the preview, my biggest thing from the preview was this game kind of sucks, but if they can just license this netcode to other MMOs, we could be entering the golden age right now. Like, I was fucking floored at how well it worked. And sometimes during the beta it worked that well too, but it was just a lot of the times it didn't work at all. And I don't know why there's such a huge gap between when the servers are working, when the servers aren't working. My guess is that there's actually some like very fixable bug having to do with like one of the theories is that it's Gravwell that's causing the servers to die. And
it feels
that would make a lot of sense. Yeah, that would make a lot of sense if it was a specific ability that was just fucking the servers and they just need to figure out what it is.
Absolutely. So after playing the closed beta, what is the way you want to play the game after it comes out for New World?
Hardcore crafter.
Complete territory domination.
How many you want to take?
As many as feasibly sustainable. I don't want to burn anybody out, but I want to be one of the best guilds in the game. Is what I want to do. You know, I would like to, since you get an achievement, right? So we can correlate that to crowns. I'd like to own each territory once. Would be cool.
Oh,
Do the round the
that'd be
world
kind
thing.
of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, even if we don't hold all of them, at least taking one of them or taking them each, because the taking is harder than defending, anyways, even at max level. So
Right. So you just,
that's the accomplishment.
Yeah, exactly. So that might be a good win condition for me. But I definitely, this is a game that I want to play as a guild master. I don't think I'd have much fun, as just like a regular member. I definitely want to be in the mix of politics and organization and all that kind of stuff. I got about once a year I get a big itch and I want to put something together and have a bunch of fun, because every time I put something together, I mean, there's drama and there's problems, and not everybody gets along with everybody all the time and all that kind of stuff. And that's still fun with, problem solving is still fun within itself. But man, the guilds I put together are always a hoot. It's always a hoot. And I think this is probably one of the best because it's so many different groups coming together and we're all kind of meshing with each other instead of just being like, Tim's group is a bunch of Spurgs and Moreland's groups, outside of Cheese, a bunch of like big brain guys and, Ghost Rag on the Outlier site, whatever. We're all kind of like learning how to mesh together and become like one group. I really love that. And I'm having a lot of fun with that too.
Bro, Cheese solves the meta in every game he plays. You watch.
Does he? Is that his thing? I can't figure out what his thing is.
He instantly solves the PvP meta in every game. He was like the number 2 Crusader on Elion, and like after like 5 minutes, he was
no shit
fucking everyone on the leaderboards and had no idea what he was doing. Yeah,
that's funny. I would hate to lose any game to him at all.
You should have fought him on the last day of the beta, dude. He has some fucking unkillable like.
Oh, did he?
Bullshit. Yeah, like int hybrid build or something.
Bro, was he running the Ice Gauntlet thing? There was someone who was, I could not, like, he just froze me with Ice Gauntlet and I just die every single time. It's some weird build like that.
I did want to touch on damage though, or healing. I think, our healing team was absolutely cracked, shout out Kerr and Prostitute. But I think in general, the healing is just way too strong. It almost like completely nullified consequence in large scale, right? Like I don't want it to turn into like a witch wizard meta, right? Like, we got to turn that shit down.
I think what it is, man, I think that so many of the game's problems are not actually problems with the combat or with the servers, but literally with one thing. And that is the fact that the way you capture territory is by cramming as many bodies as you can into a single 5-meter radius. I think if that wasn't the objective, we wouldn't have the Great Axe meta. Healers wouldn't be overpowered. The servers wouldn't be dying as much. I feel like so many other issues would be solved if there was just a more interesting objective than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I
mean, think about it. Are healers overpowered if people are actually running from point to point? They're overpowered when everyone's clumped up together and you just stand in the green circle.
I still feel like they're overpowered. Definitely.
Yeah.
But I'd say not near as exaggerated overpowered as they are right now. They're definitely over exaggerated right now because there's no diminishing returns. And since there's no diminishing returns, every extra healer is a full extra healer. Where if there was diminishing returns, every extra healer might be 50% less or 25% less or whatever.
Exactly what I was thinking. Is I don't think there's anything wrong with necessarily like capture the point. I don't think they have to like completely change everything up. But if that's the second green circle beneath that guy's foot, maybe that second green circle is only healing for 10% of what it should be.
So then, are we going to do the same thing with meteors and ice circles? Should those diminish when there's 10 casters dropping their AOE on a point?
I think the burn that happens, like any like effects like that, should have diminishing returns. Yeah. So you can. If you have one burn and 2 burns,
cancel each other out. Then.
Yeah. Then it would. Yeah. No.
So I think like first, the way this is handled in some of our games is if you have one poison on you, right? The second poison is then at 50% strength. The third person's at 25%. Then it's 12.5, and then it's 6.25 or whatever. So you're not encouraged to have like 20 damage over time people sitting on you. But
I think the time to kill and the damage is probably right. So we wouldn't know until we did something with it. But I think the way the time to kill, the only qualm I have about time to kill is I just think when you stack healers, you're literally invincible. So I think if 20 fire mages, right, it's a different conversation. If 20 fire mages are casting down in a place that you have to go up and kill them, well, then don't stand in the place where they're casting down. Go up and kill them first. Where the healing is just, it's over, the numbers are just too high, I think, right? You only need a handful. What do we have? 3, 4, 5, something like that. And they would just put it down there. Yeah, you could go kill them, but it's kind of, I think the damage and healing thing is a different conversation. I know I'm not articulating it, perfectly, but
you have to
I mean,
think
it feels like the same thing to me. You have ranged people influencing the outcome of the fight in a large area, whether it's keeping your guys alive or making the other guys die. Isn't it? Aren't they just reversals of the same thing?
The difference is one is like utility, right? And then one is like this raw actually how do you say it? Like action equals death, right? Which is the goal. And like utility things have to have a different way of being balanced, other than number goes up, number goes down. They have to be a little bit more complex. Like, if everybody has too many CCs, you can just permanently CC people, right? And so you have to have ways to counter that. If there's too much healing, that's a utility. It gets too strong.
Yeah, I just think the healing's too far up. I don't know how to
Yeah.
like correlate that with damage and shit like that. I just, when I was playing the game and there was all these green circles, I go, no matter how hard we focus, we can't kill that guy. And I think that's a problem. And I think adding diminishing returns at some level could help alleviate that without, busting scaling in a 1v1 and small scale in other situations.
Why isn't the solution to that not to just go kill their healers?
Because you can't kill
if you have a single hatchet guy running around fucking with the backline, you can disrupt, like one guy can disrupt 2 or 3 healers by himself practically if he knows how to position. I mean, that's what Flincy was doing to us all beta.
I guess a good
I
example
still
of
think
this,
it's a problem.
if you an example of this is like if healers are as strong as they are right now and there's no diminishing returns, then the best strategy is like 20 healers, 20 DPS, and 10 people doing something else, right? That's like the boiled down strategy of it all. And so like if you only have only 5 healers because diminishing returns, then those 5 healers feel way more impactful, feel way more good about their job, and if you kill one, you actually feel like you made a big impact, because there's not 20 of them, right? There's only 5 of them. So right now, if there's 10 of them and you kill one, you only changed 10% difference, if that, maybe even less. So I feel like that's where if you want to go out and kill those, and you want that to feel impactful about going out and killing healers, you need to have less of them on the field. That way, when you do kill one, you're actually knocking off like 25% of their healing capabilities, or 30%.
I mean, you could say the same thing though about like if they're putting all their power into healing, then they won't have control, or they won't have range DP. Like there's some other role that by disrupting that, you would be disrupting 25% of whatever that category is instead of 25% of the healers.
I think we're going down a rabbit hole here.
I don't think that diminishing returns is ever a good solution to something like this. If healing needs to be nerfed, then just nerf it. Diminishing returns to me is just another way where I can't actually know what the fuck the impact of my action in the game is going to be, and that drives me crazy.
I respect that.
Yeah, it definitely is a little harder to understand for sure. And I mean, that comes down to also this coordinating there too, right? It puts more emphasis on the players saying, hey, healer group 1, go. Healer group 2, go. Healer group 3, go. And it puts more emphasis on that coordination, which also may or may not be fun depending on how that's designed. And that's something I guess I didn't really think about either. I do think that healing's too strong though, for sure, across the board. Like we were able to tank the final dungeon boss by literally just healing the entire time.
Yeah, even PvE, it's like it's way overtuned.
Yeah, it's a consequence of the dungeons being thrown together in 5 minutes, though, in the 11th hour when they're trying to get their product launched. I mean,
there's no content in the game
dungeons
you can't
were
heal.
bad.
There's no content in the game you can't heal. There's not a single one.
I think that's a good comment that we should just throw out there. Is the dungeons are a failure.
I like the dungeons. I think they're really good. Yeah.
How?
They're a fun way. They're a fun activity. They have some.
How many times?
I've done all the dungeons except for the 35 one, and I've done probably the in-game ones like maybe 3 to 5 times a piece, something like that.
And you had fun every time you ran through there?
Yeah, it's actually an enjoyable task to get down with the boys and farm out some gear. You get like a good drop. You're like, holy smokes. It seems like there's like a 1 or 2% chance of getting good gear from a boss. So
I think
every
that
person
wraps
has
back
that.
around to faction gear, right? I was not excited about gear at all in this game because I just had to push my level and get the tokens for the faction gear. So I can see where if you're not buying faction gear, you had fun with it. That's interesting.
Well,
now that I know that you didn't buy faction gear at all, I'm sure you were excited to be in there.
Well, another thing to consider is like I said, there's a 1 or 2% chance that you get a drop that's 40 gear score higher than your current gear score items. And so no matter, even if you bought the faction gear, you might get like, you have like, I think it's like 550 for the armor or something like that. And you say you have bad accessories, so you might get like a 570 piece from one of the dungeons at a 1% drop rate from each boss. So if you have 5 bosses, you have like roughly a 5% chance of getting one of those items. And if your entire group, it's like a 25% chance that someone in your group will get it when you go through the dungeon.
We're talking about the rewards, though. We're not talking about the dungeons themselves. I mean, if the activity in the game, if the reward is good enough, then it could be the most boring activity in the world, and you'll still do it for the reward.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make the activity actually fun. The dungeons are an abject failure. They are probably the worst dungeons I've ever seen in any MMO in history. I mean, Bless Unleashed dungeons are 10 times more fun than New World dungeons. Like any game that you play, any even remotely theme park game has way better dungeons than New World. They're clearly designed by people who were like told by some middle manager, "Hey, we need dungeons, and we only have 3 months to develop them, so hurry up."
I mean, so that's the point I was going to try to make after Potion Shop was talking is so the reward fine, like Moreland came in and said, but like I don't understand it. They seem like oddly overcomplicated in like a simple way. Like they were trying to make it complex, but they were bad at doing it, and maybe rushing it was the the reason to that. But I just don't understand what they were trying to how it fits into the game, or what their vision with it was. And maybe there just wasn't either of those things. It doesn't fit and there was no vision.
Well,
but they were designed and they were pretty, right? Like they were kind of pretty, but
I think like
outside of that,
honestly, like what comes down to a dungeon, right, is you can come up with an idea for a dungeon and then you have to play it like literally hundreds of times to figure out all the cheese, and you have to remove all the cheese. And that's what like the problem is. Like the final boss in Lazarus dungeon, literally it's not really a cheese form, but you can just stand at his chest and you can just dodge all his mechanics because they didn't think about that. So you can it's like a cheese for it, really. And so that's the same problem that Destiny has. The same problem with a lot of them is like either it's a big HP bag and you just have to hit it over and over again, or it has good mechanics, but you can cheese it in some simple way that wasn't thought by the developers because they didn't have enough time to play test it, or they weren't clever enough to think of the issue.
I mean, like I have fun doing really fucking stupid shit very often, right?
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean it's good. So that's kind of the point I was making is like, the rewards there, and that's cool. That's, definitely a part of it, right? That's definitely important. But, again, the vision and the, I wish Kerr was here. Somebody in chat just said BDO is has the only worse dungeons than
that's true.
The New World. Did you do the BDO dungeon?
No, I was going to do it with Kerr today before the podcast, and then internet happened, so we haven't done that yet. But I definitely think that the BDO dungeon is worse, for sure.
That's probably true. Yeah, that's probably fair.
Yeah, I don't really have a high standard for dungeons. I just like the activity of like the things I like. I just like getting loot from them, and I like doing like a world first type race type thing. Right, those are the two things that excite me about dungeons. The mechanics or whatever, I just don't care because I played Destiny, and that's what got me into like dungeons and raids. And every single one of those always had a cheese, bro. They always was a cheese. So there was never like actually mechanics you actually had to worry about too much. And sometimes there would be like one or two that you'd struggle with for a little bit, but I enjoyed more of that like that race mentality more than the actual.
That's the big problem though, man. I mean, that's the kind of thing that makes people quit the game after a month or two. Like, rather than having, they're going to release probably 5 more dungeons on launch with the game. Like they withheld a bunch. They already have it in the roadmap. I would rather have 2 really fleshed out dungeons that work well with interesting mechanics that are challenging and rewarding than 10 half-assed rush pieces of shit that were just like, I don't really have that high standards. Fuck it, do it with your friend. Like, anything in the game can be fuck it, I'm with my homies. Like, that's not an excuse for these devs, especially a company like Amazon, to just be absolutely phoning it in. I mean, just make good content or don't make the content at all. And, go do something else that you are good at. Like, to me, it just drives me crazy.
Well, I think one thing to say about this is like, I feel like at this point it's sort of like saying I don't like MOBAs, right? Like, okay, you might not like MOBAs, but it doesn't mean it's necessarily bad content for everybody. And I do think that this dungeon like content is very healthy for the game long term, even if it's not something that like it doesn't meet your standards, right? I do think there's going to be a lot of people who enjoy this just for the simplicity of it and like how it is.
Okay, so what's your favorite game's dungeons, Moreland? That's what I want to know. What game do you think did dungeons really well?
I mean,
Like
I'm always partial to
drama.
open world dungeons. Honestly, if we're talking about instances, I think that there really hasn't been. I don't know if there's ever been a game that has done instances in a way where they are fun to run more than 3 times. I don't think, like, even thinking about like WoW raids, or I'm starting to see Final Fantasy 14's content, although I've heard the fights get a lot better later on. I don't think that an instanced dungeon has ever been designed in a way that's like fundamentally repeatable and good. I think open world dungeons are a way more interesting solution to this problem, and instances are a fucking waste of time. I think the only reason they're doing instances is because WoW has them and FF14 has them, and that's the industry standard now.
Yeah.
But honestly, like, if we're talking about a repeatable challenge that's satisfying, what comes to me is not instanced MMO dungeons. What comes to my mind is something like playing New World or not playing New World, playing Dark Souls with a different weapon, right? Like, I've played Dark Souls start to finish probably 20 times, and I've played it with every type of weapon there is. I did mage, I did cleric, I did mace and hammer and one hand and two hand and dagger and sword, and like, that type of shit is fun, and I can do that and repeat that over and over and over again. Repeating an instance raid, I don't know if it ever can be good, but it can certainly be better than what New World has done. I mean, even like fucking WoW Classic has better dungeons than, like, I'd rather do Dead Mines than Amarine Excavation or whatever the fuck it's called in New World. Like, it's clearly stuff that they threw together without much thought. When I did the depths, the level 45 dungeon in New World, I had to run that shit 4 times because the dungeon doesn't even work, dude.
Oh, they told me about that. Yeah.
The door doesn't even fucking open half the time, and you get hard stuck and you have to go out and reset it.
Oof.
Really? Like, you couldn't catch that one? Like, how many of these dungeons do you need to pump out to mark off your checklist to make your supervisor happy? Like, do something and put your actual heart into it and make it good. Like, why have 10 pieces of half-ass content if, like, it's way better to have just a couple pieces of good content? That's what's going to keep people coming back around.
Is there an open world dungeon like outside of the Dark Souls example?
Oh yeah, dude, all the old MMOs. I mean, Meridian 59, Ultima Online, Asheron's Call, EverQuest, all of these places had open world objectives that were interesting, and you would run in circles killing Tuskers and Black Spawn Den and Asheron's Call for fucking weeks, and you would fight other players who came to try to take it over for you.
Yeah.
And like, it wasn't about like the challenge of killing the mobs. It was about shredding shit, getting loot, and fighting people who came to fuck with you, right? Or like EverQuest dungeons, if we take the full PvE route, it's about like slowly pulling your way through the dungeon and like knowing where the mobs are, and like having a bard or a monk or someone who's really good at splitting the different pulls so that you don't get zerged down, and having actual consequences for dying. Like, there's so much that goes into those games that's just absent from modern MMOs.
Yeah, I just wanted to flesh that out of you. I think EverQuest 1 solved dungeons, and if every MMO did what EverQuest 1 did, as basic as that fucking was, it's literally the fucking answer to dungeons.
Yep, and as soon as WoW did instances, all that progress got deleted, right? Like
Yep.
everyone just forgot how good open world dungeons could be once WoW started doing instances.
What is going to happen to MMOs when we wake up out of this bad relationship with WoW, man?
Well, I feel like honestly, like this is an unrealistic expectation, right? Like you can't think of one that's done instanced correctly, but then you're not happy at the same time. It just seems
Because
like
it's a bad idea.
Well, it seems
Instance-
like I
Yeah,
know,
but
but
even within the realm of instances, New World has the worst instances of any dungeon. Like
Second
if
to
the
worst.
instances in New World were at least as good as 2005 WoW, then I would say that's acceptable. It's still kind of dog shit, but it's acceptable. The dungeons that we have right now in New World are not acceptable. They are trash.
yeah, but I like that like I still feel like that is an unrealistic expectation because like
To be as good as 2005 WoW, that's
No,
an unrealistic
no, I'm saying,
expectation
like-
in
like,
2021
you-
from a AAA studio.
like you can't list one that is today meets your standard. So of course this one's going to fail to meet your standard, right? So it's just not content that you enjoy, which is I think fine that you don't enjoy that type of content.
No, that's specious, right? So
Completely
like
missing what I'm saying. Yeah.
World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King is excellent instanced dungeons as far as instance dungeons goes. The dungeons were fine. The raids
Yeah,
were
but that's
awesome.
the pinnacle of like what any game has ever achieved.
So the point I think we're trying to make is like it's Stockholm.
I want the
syndrome.
dungeon to be fun at least one time, Potion. If it was fun to run at least the first time, that would be a start.
I do feel like you had a bad experience though. That was very unique. I don't think most people had the issue that you did.
Even outside of the depths, though, I mean, that Amarine Excavate, like, that wasn't an interesting dungeon. There was
The
no
level 25
mechanics that I had to
dungeon sucked,
learn.
for
Like,
sure.
yeah, the level. I mean, it just.
I do think
it
that
just
it
seems
was
to
the
me like a
worst.
waste of resources.
The level
I spent
25 was
years-
the worst for sure. The 35
spent-
was the easiest, and then I think all the other ones were good aside from the bug that you had.
I spent years running a guild and dedicated lots of my life to instanced dungeons and raids. And I can tell you that from that pedigree that there is absolutely no fun to be had those New Worlds dungeons outside of, I might get a reward. I might get a little treat.
I
Because that's
enjoyed
It's a
them.
chore that
Fun.
you're
Right.
completing to try to get the candy at the end. That's what it is. It's like running fucking relic scrolls in BDO. It's a chore
Yes.
that you're doing because the money is good.
I
Yep.
enjoyed it. I enjoyed doing them though. Like I don't think that like maybe it's not the best thing in the world, but I don't think it's like invalidated content or bad content.
I think you're in the vast minority there, dude. I think people who played WoW or played 14 or played, fucking ESO or whatever other games are out there, I think they're going to come into this game, play those dungeons, and go, what the fuck is this, Amazon? This is all you could come up with?
Sure, I don't think people who want a hardcore raid experience are going to get that out of a quick dungeon.
It's not about hardcore, man. It's just about the thing being even remotely like fun compared to other games they've played. If you've never played a theme park game and New World is the first time you've ever run a dungeon with your friends, of course that's going to be fun. But if we're comparing this to any other game that has similar content, it's 1 out of 10, man.
I mean, I would say these are very comparable to what Destiny puts out. The quality and polish is a little higher in Destiny's maybe, but like overall the like experience is roughly the same, and that game does great. I mean, it's the pinnacle of its content. Is
You
literally
think
the raid.
these? I'm sorry.
I've
you think
never
these
heard
are-
people talk about like their amazing memories from a Destiny raid, but I've never played that game myself, so I
I've
don't
talked
know how
about
that
it.
comparison is.
Destiny has pretty good dungeons. I think the FPS looter thing carries Destiny in a bunch of different ways. So I'd have to go back to like, is this actually fun content, well designed, thought out? But my memory of playing Destiny 1 on my PlayStation 3 was a positive time outside of just the loot crawl, the mechanics and working together, and the difficulty. Every fight was interesting. It wasn't just like a copy pasta. I think Destiny, it was basically like a first person shooter WoW, and they did it fairly well. I think they did it exceedingly well, actually. So I don't know, man. I think Destiny has done instance dungeons probably better than most.
I mean, I think like for me, I enjoyed Destiny dungeons or raids, whatever you call them, and I also enjoy what they are doing in New World. I don't think New Worlds are polished or their quality is near as high, right? And I think that's a very fair argument. I think it's just something that some people it's just going to be one of those things. I'm really curious what the number of people are going to enjoy it, right? Because there's definitely going to be a group of people who are in your camp, right? And are going to be like, this is never something I want to do. It's just way below my standard of quality. I am better than this, and I want to play better games than this. And I get that. And I think there's going to be another group who play it and enjoy that. I feel like the main problem with the current ones is that you outgear them by the time you do them, so then all the mechanics feel, worthless, right? You literally can stand into the biggest damaging stuff. And again, it comes down to faction gear in a big way.
That's certainly one of the problems.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I for 1 year doing 5 dungeons, I think that's a pretty good pace. And I think their quality standard for 5 dungeons in a year is, I feel like that's passable, at least for what I like,
I wish they would just fuck off with these dungeons, dude. I wish they would just fuck off with these dungeons, quit trying to make World of Warcraft, and focus on what makes New World actually different, and do that. Like, just make a good game.
What a good piece of advice.
Yeah, I don't see them doing that though, right? They've been trying to do that for years, and they have not done that successfully. And I don't.
They have though. They have to a large extent. They have. They've created the best atmosphere of any MMO that I've ever played. Like, I had more fun chopping fucking trees and cutlass keys at level 20 in that game. I had so much fun doing that. Like, compared to other MMOs that I've played.
Yeah, but does that relate to your PvP experience, which is what you want? I don't think they've done a good job with their PvP experience.
Oh, okay. I mean, then we're shifting gears, right? Then we're talking about something else.
Well, I mean, what
are we talking about?
That's literally what we're talking about. We're about making the game better, right? It's not, no one's complaining about chopping down trees or the atmosphere of the game, right? When people say, can you just finish the game, or can you just make the game good, right? Just make a good game. They're always talking about the PvP and it not being meaningful in the game.
No, I'm not necessarily just talking about PvP. Like, the example of EverQuest Dungeons is a perfect example of what I'm saying. If they did, if they went all in on Scorpius the way that they're going all in on these dungeons, objectively, that's 10 times more fun and interesting for the game. And it would actually be different and new for most people who are experiencing it. It wouldn't just be a watered down 1 out of 10 version of the raids that they've already done in World of Warcraft a million times. It would actually be a fundamentally different experience for them. Like, the Scorpius as an open world dungeon, the first time we went through that and explored it and fought our way through and found the boss at the end, that was fucking incredible. Like, if they just added 10 more Scorpiuses and increased the difficulty and the depth and the amount of like commitment that you had to do as far as like getting into the dungeon and getting down to where the boss is, that kind of shit could be so fun, man. If they just went all in on the things that the game already is doing well, that's a way better option than trying to make these weird theme parky dungeons at the last second.
Yeah, the Zoomers just don't know that that's what a dungeon really fucking is, and they need to develop that. I couldn't agree more, man.
I think that would be good content, but I feel like they've demonstrated for years that they aren't capable of creating that content, even if they wanted to. Right? They
are, though. It's in the game. Like, Scorpius is there, Shattered Mountain is there. Those raids that we did in Great Cleave.
Yeah, but they suck in their current capacity, right? That's why we're talking about them. I don't think they have the capability of doing that. Like, I like the idea. I wish they could execute on it, but they literally have had like years of development, and they have not been able to create the fun activity.
Did you have more fun doing the depths than you did doing the outdoor dungeons in Great Cleave when we went and mobbed those? Were you with us when we did that?
Yeah, I had more fun doing the dungeon, absolutely.
Holy shit. Okay. Wow. I just don't think we're going to find common ground on this then. That blows my mind. That genuinely blows my mind.
I mean, like, my whole thing was how much fun and how cool and interactive it was to take people. I'm sorry, my camera's off for a second. To take people through Scorpius, and how
taking a group of 20 of your friends through an outdoor part of the actual world that's not in this fake separate instance in a pocket dimension, going through the actual world and accomplishing objectives in the actual world, killing bosses and looting elite chests with all your friends, with the possibility of other players who aren't in your group showing up and fucking with you or joining you or whatever. That is just so much infinitely more interesting than tank DPS healer in an instance running in a straight line over and over again. It's not even comparable to me.
Yeah, I complete. The only thing I thought Scorpius needed was it was a little more juiced in preview as far as rewards are concerned, and that's the only thing I really have to say about that. But you know, I didn't even. It's literally what they just need to focus on that, and it's hard, right? Some salespeople just, I know I might go on a little bit of a tangent here. Some salespeople are afraid to tell people no, right? They're afraid to say no. And I've said this as a reoccurring theme with Amazon. They're playing it safe. They go, instead of going, there are dungeons, you idiots. It's called Scorpius. Check it out and fucking fight there. Instead of doubling down on that and developing and iterating on that, they go, you want dungeons? Of course you want dungeons. I'm sorry. Why did we put dungeons in here? The worst fucking mistake. The worst fucking mistake. They could have educated their customers and gone, this is actually the correct way in an open world PvP game or PvE. You know, PvEs can come out here and do this too to solve dungeons. So you're welcome. Check it out. Bring your friends, and everything scales so you can have like 20 people
I
there.
feel like there's two different things here, right? There's like your ideal version of what it would be and what it actually is. The actual version is you go around in circles and people steal your mobs, which is fucking stupid, and people do it way less efficient than you can do it solo at other spots, right? And then the ideal version of what you have is amazing. You get PvP, you get all this content, you have diversity, you have like orc people run up, right, and start speaking ook to you or whatever. Like, I don't know, like that sounds amazing to me. I love that, but that's not in the game. And it wasn't
preview.
They had a sandbox where they couldn't get that to work in the sandbox. They had an alpha, they couldn't get it to work in alpha, and then they have it out now and it still doesn't work. I wish that would work, bro. I wish it would. But they've done years and they still can't do it. I'd rather just ask for something that's doing halfway decent, right? And
it works so well in the preview.
We're just throwing in the towel then. I mean, this is why to me it's a 2-month game, right? Because if our perspective on this is just, well, they tried and they can't do that, then okay, fuck it. Like, I'll play the game for 2 months and I'll move on.
Yeah,
but the potential is so obviously there. Yeah, it's so obviously right there if they actually want to make this game good.
I think it's a 2-month game, and then they follow the Destiny format where they do more gear score, more levels, and like just repeat the same thing over and over again. And then they'll have to learn some hard lessons from that, and we'll just get basically that, right? We'll just get a new region, we'll get some new weapons, we'll get a new region, we'll get some new weapons, and then maybe somewhere in there they try being creative, and that's what I'm kind of hoping for, but I'm not holding my breath, right? And I feel like I think you're on the right there with saying it's a 2-month game. I think that's what it's going to be.
Fuck both of you on that, man. I have more hope in this game and the community.
Well,
creating content and them giving us tools.
I mean, look, I'm going to continue playing the game past 2 months. I'm just not going to play it every day past 2 months. I'm going to log in for sieges. When there's a content update, I'll go hard for, a few days or whatever until I exhaust that. But as like a main game, there's just no way. I don't even think it's going to last 1 month.
Yeah, I mean,
oh shit.
It's 300. To get to max level stuff, like when you're hard pushing, it's basically 100 hours level up, and it's basically 100 hours to push your level, like your gear up, and it's like another 100 hours of like random content stuff, right? That you just want to try out or feel or do or whatever. I think it's like roughly a 300-hour game for your average hardcore player. Maybe for a streamer, you can get another 400.
That's such a sad way to look at this game. When I look back on my 2 weeks, I didn't reach level 60, mostly because I took a day off and I was forced to take another day off. But the other part is the most rewarding and best parts of the game was the ones that you're not supposed to do. Starting that fight in the fort, right? And the open world PvP 1v1s, the people I got to meet just out in the open, just fucking about outside of a town, all that stuff. Like, if you just put your head down and put in your 300 hours and you go, yep, I did it, then you're missing literally the entire game, in my opinion.
Well, I guess,
but they're not giving you the tools to do that, though. I mean, we're coming back to the sandbox again here. Like, there's where's the buckets of sand? Like, they did one thing, Tim. They did one fucking thing in the last 11 months. They added forts that you can go capture, and they didn't even do a good job of it. And look at how much content that spawned. Like, if they would just give players the slightest tools to do interesting things in the game, rather than sticking us on these, 5-man dungeon rails, then you would have that. But they just refuse to do it.
Now, it just triggers me when you start counting down the hours that this game has available of being interesting. I don't like that.
The siege stuff, right, will definitely last. You know, there'll always be someone who wants to take it, but at some point it'll just become BDO siege, right? Where there's not enough people who actually care, and it'll just be too easy for the people who actually do
La
care.
la
to
la
do
la
it.
la 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 la
Like,
la 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 la.
the really fun thing will be when they start new servers. Then it'll be a blast to jump on a new server, and everybody will like jump in there trying to crash, try to capture missed territories, and that'll probably happen like
No, fuck
yearly.
that. There's no way I'm doing a fresh launch of this game more than once.
New World Classic win.
No nostalgia for this one.
What's it called? But yeah, I think what's going to happen is the same thing happened in the closed beta, but it'll be on a longer time scale. So what will happen is you'll have a whole bunch of people interested, and then about in like a couple weeks in, you'll be able to get about half your regular crew, and eventually you won't be able to fill the whole crew, and eventually it'll just die, not because it's bad content, but just because no one has a reason to continue staying in the game outside of that 300, 400 hour push or whatever you want to call it. And so it'll just be the people that you have will just dwindle down until next content update, which will be, if it's like Destiny, will be every 3 months, and it'll have one big content update a year. So you'll have plenty of every 3 months you'll have something to do, and then basically it'll be like Path Exile, where that third month everybody's playing something else. They're playing like Fortnite, they're playing like League of Legends, they're playing all these other games, and then the third month, everybody comes back to the game, and they're like, holy smokes, let's take in their territory, let's get 4 of them this time. Last time we got 3 in a row, and it'll just be a big, everybody have fun for another month or two.
All I can think about is just how abused MMO players are. We're over monetized. The amount of mechanics basic mechanics they just can't figure out. It just is a whole scale thing. There's just so much bad in this, and I think we're all kind of got the fish hook in our mouth over the potential. And there's right, if you piece all these games together, right, if you piece the good parts of all these games together, there's like the perfect MMO. And I think that's what we all jump around to different games and try to search for, is did somebody finally put the formula almost seems obvious but unattainable at the same time. If somebody just took the time, which I think is what everybody kind of, it's got to stop interrupting myself, thinks AOC is going to be, right? It's going to be this perfect formula. It's from the sky. He's not like tied to anything. He's got his own money, and he's just going to go make the perfect MMO. But like, man, even if you just got the basics right, like I'm doing this GTA thing, and I'm in awe at what they are able to accomplish 12 years ago with the mechanics in here, and then just threw a couple mods into it, and like how far the gap between this game and any MMO I've ever played is. Right. It's unbelievable.
You know what?
Yeah, why can unpaid modders make a better immersive social experience than people who have hundreds of millions of dollars in budget?
I can't wrap my head around it. I really can't. I really can't. I gave these guys money as soon as I possibly could. 2 days into it, I'm like, how do I donate? I'm having that much fun. I don't have to fucking pay for this. I literally want to, which proves Moreland's point in a way. Just make the fucking game good. Just make it good. I literally want to give them money because this game is that good in the way they moderate it and all the special content that they've done and stuff. Rant over. I'm off the soapbox.
This is what I think Ashes of Creation is going to be. I think it's going to be one of the worst looking games, worst combat feeling games you've ever seen, but it's going to have all the rules be right. All the rules are going to be right, and you're going to be like, I hate this game, but it actually did the rules right. Why can't they just combine this game with New World?
Right, man.
I think that's what it's going to be. Right. People are going to look at that and they're going to be like, I hate it, but I love playing it at the same time.
I think that Ashes is going to appeal to a completely different audience than the people who are currently hyping it. And when those people find that out, they're going to be very upset.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. They don't know what they're in store for sure.
Just to tie up my thoughts on New World, I absolutely hate every single take Asmongold has on this fucking game, man. I wish he would just stop making these fucking videos. I know he's making money and doing his thing, but I wish he would just shut the fuck up about New World. Yeah, do your thing with all these other games.
Anything
this
guy
literally. I
gotta defend my boy Asmon. What's he saying?
I know you like him, but like he's like, it's an above average MMO. It'll never be anything. He's such a big voice. He's such a big voice, and I hate how negative he is about it. He's just negative. I mean, this guy has been locked in a fucking allegory of the cave in WoW. All he knows is fucking WoW. He boots up 14 for the first time ever. He's like, holy shit, things can be different. And his opinion on New World matters?
I
don't know.
I think
Of
that
course
he
his
has
opinion matters. I mean, he's a distillation of hundreds of thousands of people. Like whether you
No,
like it or
he's
not, there's a
not.
reason. He
Yeah,
is though.
Absolutely.
That's how people feel. The way that Asmund talks is the way that those people feel, man.
For hundreds of thousands of people, they feel that way.
Okay, fair. But man, I hate WoW. The older I get, the more games that come out, the more episodes of this podcast that we do. I fucking hate WoW and how long it's gone on and the damage, the irreparable damage it's done to MMOs in the community.
You sound like me. You sound like me in 2008, bro.
That's my anger. That's really my anger. I've
beating this horse my whole life.
It's still alive. It won't fucking die.
One thing that I think is interesting about this, I do think that it's starting to go in a new direction. Like with World of Warcraft making so many bad choices over and over and over again, it gives a lot of freedom to these companies making MMOs to try out something that's fresh and new.
There's a potential for it, yes.
Yeah.
But it's not been right. Bless you. The first man through the door gets shot. I keep saying that, right? This industry, in almost any industry, when you change the status quo, people vomit. Right? They freak out. They're all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's a scary thing for these books.
Well,
so we just need some big, brave AAA company. Fuck, it should have been Amazon to just bust through that door and just go, fuck you guys. WoW sucks. We're going to make something cool.
Remember when Amazon announced an open world sandbox PvP game with consequences to your actions?
Busting through the door. Fuck you. WoW sucks. We're going to show you guys how it's done. That's exactly what they were
What
gonna
happened
do.
is the first director got shot, so they got a new one.
So we do have a little. That may be fair, right? We may have that little bit of progress. This could be that little bit of progress, and they did get shot. You're right.
I think that when I think about
I think people are just going to use this as even more proof of why sandbox games can never be successful. Like I hear this all the time in my Twitch chat when we're having this discussion. People are just like, "Oh, no one wants to play that game. No one wants to play that game," and every example they give of why people don't want to play sandbox games is shit like New World, right? They're going to be like, "Oh, well, New World was tried to make a sandbox and it failed because no one wants to play that," and it's like completely a chicken and egg thing, right? Like the game never even they never even tried to really make it.
Well,
they ran into a predictable hiccup of people not liking it when there were consequences to their actions, and they couldn't, they tried for 5 minutes to fix it, and then they fired everybody and started over. Like that's not proof that the audience isn't there. That's just proof that nobody has the fucking conviction to stick with their vision for more than 10 seconds and see
real quick
through.
Potion. And that's on top of that, to exacerbate that point exactly, to go back to my Asmongold rant that was probably a little off touch. When you have somebody who's piping that megaphone, dissecting it through the eyes of World of Warcraft on top of that, it makes it harder to get these things through and to have success with that. And that's what I find frustrating is he's not being objective. He's not taking those he can't, right? He basically can't. And so you put those things together and they just feed off each other. And it is chicken and the egg, but
that's not that anger should not be like directed towards Asmongold. That should be directed towards the developers not having a strong vision for their game that Asmongold can realize and then not.
I could be mad at both. Okay. I could be mad at both.
Because ultimately that falls on the developers for not having a strong vision that was communicated properly. And if they did have that strong vision, then Asmongold would have been like, oh, well, this is just not a game for me, right? I don't like Dark Souls, so I don't like New World, right? Or whatever it would have been for their strong vision.
Well, I mean, Ashes of Creation is way more outside of the box than New World, and he's very excited for that game. So I think it really just comes down to, implementation and like Potion said, like actually conveying your vision and sticking to it.
Because they're unapologetic in Ashes of Creation. It's like, you don't like our game? Like,
they're unapologetically saying yes to everything.
Way weirder than New World. It's for a WoW player, Ashes of Creation is going to be a fucking shocking experience compared to New World. Like New World is going out of its way to handhold these WoW players and oh look, we have our little 5-man dungeons. It's just like that other game you played. Like Ashes of Creation is not going to be doing that at all. They're going to make some weird shit. Some weird Lineage 2 arcade shit that's going to like WoW players are not going to like that. And yet, look at how much hype it has, and look at people like Asmongold who are willing to give it a shot. And it's because of the Arcade nerd who's designing the thing, who says, yeah, I'm going to try something different. And I don't agree at all with a lot of the design choices they make in that game, but at least the guy has the fucking balls to stick with what he wants to make, instead of just being like, oh, well, the market research shows that like,
I promise he's a liar, dude. I promise this is a con. He is saying yes to things that he has no idea if they're going in the game, if they can go in the game, if they're going to fit, if they're going to work. He gets on these streams, he gets on these forums,
beside the point,
and it's not beside the point. It's a big fucking problem. The wool is over so many people's eyes. Oh, this guy is a fucking con artist.
Well,
he's a millionaire nerd who wants to make a game, and he's optimistic about what he can accomplish. What do you want him to say? Oh, we'll see. You want him to answer every question with, "Oh, we'll see about that." Like, of course he's going to be.
No, I want him to be honest about the fucking vision. No, because there's no vision. He's
when
just
is he
saying
lying?
Yes.
What is he lying about, Tim?
Every time
what are
he
you
says
so mad
yes.
about?
Every time he says yes to literally fucking everything.
All right, that's not fair.
When he said our costumes are going to be better than BDOs, our customization is going to be better than BDOs. I'm like, there's nothing this man's going to say no to. Dude. Why would you?
Listen,
I don't think he's lying. I think he's just deluded.
One thing.
It's irresponsible though.
It's
like, oh, I ran him over with a car. It's manslaughter.
We've had this conversation before. The problem is you've watched one like Ash's creation video where he literally said yes on everything, and then you use as justification for everything being bad. Right? It's like you found your own. It's confirmation bias. That's what it is. And like I don't think I don't think the game's gonna be amazing, but he's definitely sticking to his vision. Like that is, if anything, he's doing that.
Which is what
it doesn't matter if Ashes is gonna be good or not. That's not what we're talking about.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is conviction. What we're talking about is actually being able to show other gamers that you are trying something different and talk to them about why you're doing it. Whether it's good or not is beside the point. There's a reason why Asmon and Lazy Peon and all these other YouTubers are super on board with Ashes and not on board with New World. It's because New World doesn't communicate. They don't have a vision. They have 15 different chiefs that are all trying to run the tribe in different directions. There's no cohesion. The game isn't about anything. It's about like all these different things at once that conflict.
Yep.
And people can feel that when they play it.
So what's the vision of AOC? I'll ask again. What's the vision?
Social dynamics
and player Lineage 2.
Yeah, to have social dynamics that the players choose, and those like they have consequences. That's like his entire goal.
Yeah. And a node system. And the best costumes ever.
You have to have something that causes player interactions. Yes.
Look, he's doing something right because people are giving him the benefit of the doubt, but they're not giving other companies the benefit of the doubt.
And one thing just to be said about the whole con artist thing, like I do think he's doing this to make a fuckload of money. All right. He's not doing that. Like he's definitely trying to make a ton of money on this.
Sure.
And like you can see that in him like selling like $500 tickets to get into like the closed alpha or whatever it is. Like
that would be further proof of a con artist.
Sure.
Hey,
no, not a con artist, because he's actually
$500.
a con artist takes your money and then disappears. He's taking your money and actually doing something with it. So
you guys actually think that developing a game is the easiest way to scam people out of money? Bro, if he just wanted to cash out, there's so many. Like he's literally already does that in his professional life. He already cashed out.
He's a narcissist. He wants this attention. He loves
so emotional about this guy, dude. You are so emotional about this guy.
I'm passionate about MMOs, right? I'm passionate about MMOs. I want what he is trying to portray to actually exist. I think he's a fucking liar. I honestly think he's a fucking liar, and he's going to steal people's money.
I don't think he's that suave, bro. I think he's a fucking nerd.
At the very least, I think he got a whiff of fucking popularity. He gets off on it. He's going to write it out, and he's going to create a biggest pile of shit, and then just ride off into the sunset, going from $5 million to $50 million. Middle fingers up the whole way through.
He's
not
investing
giving a fuck about it.
He's investing $30 million.
Way more money than that.
Versus investing $30 million of his own money, and it's not all of his money.
Jesus Christ!
And then of that, he's only got funded. I think it's $5 million
of his dumb argument.
It's you got to think about it. Less than like 15% of all the money is fundraised, right? Literally, like 70 to 80% of the money is his money. Like, why would you risk $30 million
Dude, why is
on
he
a
charging
game?
$500? Dude, I don't buy that.
It's not charging. It's an
fucking
alpha. It's for
minute.
Papegas who want to give him money. I would do the
Dude,
same thing. I would
2
make it
plus 2.
$5,000.
2 plus 2 is not equaling 4 in my head here. I think this guy's a fucking rat. I'll die in the sword. I hope I'm wrong. I want to be really clear about that. I really hope I'm wrong. But every instinct inside me goes, this guy is a fucking rat. Don't trust this game until
so when
it's completely
indie companies
done.
used to do Kickstarters, and they would have stretch goals, and they would have ridiculous backing things for like $500 or $2,000. For $10,000, you can come visit us in our offices and help make a character. Like, do you think those were con artists?
Yeah, most of them, yes. He's basically.
Jesus. Okay.
What do you mean? They're putting out things. Hey, we can do this if you give us this.
So no company can ever come up with an interesting high cash financial incentive for people to support them, or else they're a con artist. That's basically
Kickstarter was basically a massive thing for con artists to go, hey, I've got an idea. If only I had $500,000. No, it's not dumb.
It is.
It's not dumb. They had no plan. They had no idea. They had no staff. It was 2 guys going, hey, if we had $500,000, we could make the best game ever. And then they get the fucking money and they're like, we have no idea what to do.
Literally.
So Path of Exile is a scam, according to you. It's a bunch of con artists.
And it's also about what's it called?
Do you know how much money? Do you know how much money you had to give the PoE devs in order to get an item named after you in PoE?
Not every single. There's
what a bunch of scammers,
right?
bro! What a bunch
what about
of scammers.
Oculus headset?
Thousands
oh my gosh!
Thousands of dollars to make a shitty unique item that's not even relevant anymore.
Great, one game came out.
What a bunch of scammers, dude!
Divinity and PoE. Is there another Kickstarter game that wasn't a fucking train wreck? These guys, they just need to have a plan, dude, and be honest about it. They need to have infrastructure.
All right, well, he's met both those criteria. Hold up. He met both those criteria. He had a plan, and he's been honest about it. And you have no proof to the contrary.
I just have a gut feeling, man.
I don't care about your gut. I want your proof.
The proof is coming. Bet.
He already did a closed alpha or an open alpha, whatever it was, and you could stream it.
It was garbage.
3 to 5 years.
Right. It's right. So he's just going to keep stretching it out. It's going to be, what's that, Star Citizen? He wants to be Star Citizen.
This is way farther in development than Star Citizen is, and it's also way less developed. Way less time put into it.
Mm-hmm.
And it has way less funding.
I don't think there's anything this guy could have done short of like media blackout that would make Tim trust him.
True. Like, they literally do a monthly stream on what they've been doing every single month, where your money's gone. Every single month, they say, hey, here's the new monster.
I actually think they're too transparent, and they're going to ruin the game by showing every fucking nook and cranny of it before everyone gets to play it, and there's going to be no discovery at all, and the game's going to be solved before it ever even comes out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't trust him. I think he's going to do. I think he's going to do a bad job.
Tim, when this actually comes out, we need you to reevaluate how you evaluate people and how you trust them.
Okay. Well, will you give me the 7,000
years?
Yeah. In 5 years, will you give me the $7,000 I'll need to fucking play the game, and then I'll reevaluate my entire life.
Oh, don't worry. Don't worry.
Just ask him for a creator code, dude.
You can get one.
Ask him. I'm not gonna fucking talk to that rat.
Well, don't worry, he has a secretary. Miss Secretary Rat.
Is she married?
Speaking of rats, do you guys want to pivot to Blizzard?
Oh my gosh, that place just keeps getting worse and worse and worse.
I think the new people in charge might be okay. I haven't looked super in depth into it, but at least one of the guys actually plays WoW. So that's
not how these things work out, man. When there's massive controversy and they bring somebody else in, you got like a 5-10% chance that this, even just stays afloat. It's not going to soar.
Let me break it down for people.
I don't think he's going to save the company, but I don't think it could possibly get any worse at this point.
So there's basically what happened for people who don't know is Blizzard's going through a big lawsuit with, like, I don't know, was it sexual harassment or something like that, right?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's anyway, some big lawsuits going on. The Activision CEO was getting in trouble about stuff and was getting pressure from his investors. And so the CEO of Blizzard has stepped down, and he was basically handpicked by the previous before Blizzard and Activision like merged, whatever. So it's a pretty big deal. He's been the CEO of Blizzard for a long time, and 2 people have replaced him as co-leaders of Blizzard for now.
Oh God, yeah, here we go, dude. Are you serious?
So
well,
there's
they
2
had to have.
co-leaders?
I mean, not to offend anyone, but they had to have a woman, right? Like they had to. I think if they just appointed another guy, you know, Twitter would have just exploded. So there had to be a girl involved, and I don't know much about her, but I did look into the guy that they appointed.
What's his name?
Who's co-leading.
Why didn't you look into the girl?
I don't know. Wasn't that interested, I guess.
I think it's Yormi or something like that is the guy's last name.
I watched a few YouTube videos on it, and they talked a lot about the guy, but they didn't say much about the girl. So that's where I'm getting my information.
Yeah,
okay.
I can, if you talk about the guy, I can talk about Jin and Neil. Jin and Neil is the girl.
Oh yeah, I'm curious to learn more about her.
So she is the former, I guess, director of Vicarious Visions. Vicarious Visions worked on the Destiny 2 expansion, was working with Destiny for a very long time, designing their content. And I think they've always done more or less the best content that Destiny ever had. And then on top of that, they broke off after Destiny went away from Activision. And then they did the Spyro update, the Spyro Remastered, which people loved. They did Crash Bandicoot Remastered. They did Diablo 2 Resurrected. And they also worked on Pro Skater, Tony Hawk Pro Skater.
See, I just don't know if pedigree matters in the gaming industry. Like, what's her Twitter like? That's what I want to know. Like, is she based? Is she a gamer? What's the deal with her personally?
She literally doesn't have a major Twitter. She has almost no activity.
I love her. I already love her.
Yeah, she basically has almost no Twitter activity. I actually tried messaging her.
Fucking excellent.
Because
messaging her.
Yeah, because I actually my favorite expansion of Destiny was actually the one that she like helped make. And so I wanted to say like thank you for the good times from Vicarious Visions, because like I actually really thought they were doing amazing things in the industry. Anyway, she got promoted to from Vicarious Visions to get merged into Blizzard, and so they are integrating into Blizzard at this point. And Jean O'Neill, got placed as the second in command CEO. I don't know what that's called. Second in charge.
Bad idea. It's called the bad idea.
I don't know what the position is called when you're like there's the CEO and there's the person right after the CEO.
President?
Maybe vice CEO. I don't know. Anyway,
if there's 2 CEOs, there's nothing to call it besides a bad idea. Like, no me.
But yeah, she's like vice president or something, right? That was her role. Okay. And so she's just getting promoted.
Was J. Allen Brack technically CEO? I think his title might have actually been president. I don't know if his title was CEO. Was it?
I'd have to look it up to know exactly all their terms and everything. Anyway, I think Jen O'Neill does a really good job with making sure that deadlines happen and get met. Like that,
is it COO? Is it COO? Operations?
I'd have to look it up.
We'd
okay. Anyway, all right.
Yeah. So like her like expertise that she's been proved over and over and over again. And I can't speak to her ability to design new games, but her ability to understand the community and what the community wants and blend what the community wants with what the teams are making. That's her skill set. That's like her number one skill set, is being able to make sure that happens and making sure that there's a good cultural environment where she works. Those are like her 2 main things she's known for. Now, aside from...
That's exactly what they need, right? I mean, that company needs a major cultural shift. Like, nothing short of that. Blizzard's problems can't be solved at the like executive or administrative level. Like, it needs to literally feel different to work there than it does now, or else that company's never going anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like, the proof is in the pudding type thing. Like, time will tell if she's able to fill the big shoes that she's been given. But I think that out of people that I know, I think she's a very, very good choice, and I'm looking forward to seeing what she's able to do. Now, the other guy is apparently some like super nerd. Like, he apparently played nothing but World of Warcraft for 3 years and didn't take showers and stuff. So
hell yeah.
He's like some crazy super nerd. He's one of those guys you would worry about dying at the PC cafe playing World of Warcraft. So, and apparently he just cold turkey quit at some point, and started getting in a business career at that point, and he's just worked his way up ever since. his history was in Xbox Live Services. That's where like his claim to fame came from, and he designed all of those, made them all run. So I don't know how that blends into the culture of the game, but maybe he's going to run like I don't know, the Blizzard app and like Blizzard services type thing, and then she's going to handle the teams and organizing teams and culture. I mean,
Okay.
So I don't know.
So let's clarify here a little bit. The CEO is Bobby Kotick.
Yeah, well, he's the CEO of Blizzard Activision.
Right.
So
okay. So
the
that's
guy
not
who stepped
changing.
down. Yeah, no, that's never going to change. The guy who stepped down was the president of Blizzard. I don't think J. Allen Brack is, I don't think he has any influence over Call of Duty or any of their other products. Like, he's the Blizzard guy. He's the head of the Blizzard games part.
So they are hiring 2 people. It's not some leadership change. It's a leadership change within this department.
Right. The overall big head of the company is not changing.
They hired 2 people to do one job. That is a recipe for disaster, right? Even if Jen is going to be like, she's really good at culture and all that kind of stuff, and that's what she does, eventually she'll probably solve that. Let's hope she solves that. And then she gets moved out or wants to start. Dude, there's no way. This is going to be such a big head-butting fucking disaster. You don't hire 2 people for one thing. They should have just hired Jen, right? If they needed to hire a woman, just hire a fucking woman, right? And I agree. In like the optics of it would be an excellent decision. Hire somebody who can make sure that the office runs correctly, right? All the creative is still there. All that's going on. Just hire Jen. Why is this other fucking guy?
I think optically they did what they had to do, because they think about it. They have to cater to 2 completely polar opposite parts of the internet at the same time. They have to make all the Twitter people happy, especially in the wake of all these like sexual assault allegations. But they also have to make the fucking black-pilled neckbeards who play WoW happy. And if they just appointed a woman, could you imagine the fucking shit she would get, dude? It'd be like when remember when Reddit swapped to that Ellen, whatever her name was, CEO back in the day, and just like stepped down 6 months later because she just got harassed nonstop 24/7. That's exactly what would happen if they just appointed a female CEO. I feel like they had to play both sides.
I don't think necessarily is recipe. It's not a guaranteed recipe for failure, because if you look at like Path to Exile, they have 3. They have 3 leaders, right? They have Chris, and then they have like 2 of his like buddies, and they all started together. Windows and Apple, both of them started off with co-leaders.
Steve Wozniak did really well. Really well.
But it's basically
what a good example.
Like I'm saying like that isn't necessarily a guaranteed recipe for disaster, because some of the most successful companies that have ever existed had 2 people leading it, and not necessarily saying that they did equal jobs and stuff like that. But that's very common for people to have, like for very successful companies to have 2.
I think if there's a clear delineation of what their role is, then you can have as many leaders as you want if they're leading different things. But if you have 2 people leading the same thing with the same role, that's where it gets weird. So I think it comes down to how they're going to divide and conquer.
Yeah.
Well,
absolutely.
here's a company that's already fucking drowning, and for so many different reasons. And now you have this huge scandal, and you overfocus on optics, and I promise you the rest will suffer because of this. 100%. They should have just hired Jen, trusted in her, and sold it to everybody else, and been confident in their decision. This co-leadership, man, not going to work.
Yeah, I mean,
the companies ended up being successful because they were explosions of success, right? They were revolutionary ideas that were well funded. Steve Wozniak got fucked. I don't even know who the other guy at Microsoft was. And there's all this drama. You can watch documentaries about how all that unfolded. It's always a bad idea. They're over focusing on optics, and maybe they have to, but they're going to have to fix that real quick. Personally, I would have hired Jen. Fuck that other guy, or like give him like some title or something. Be like, in addition to, we have a director of creativity that we're hiring on, this guy, and give him 2 separate titles, and put Jen in charge, and just go, this is the woman that's going to run this. But here's this other guy we're bringing on too, just to make sure the vision of video gaming, and being a sweady nerd is there too.
Yeah,
don't put Jen in charge.
I don't know if I have enough context to really comment any farther on it, because it could be that they don't really have a a candidate for that position, so they're just seeing what to put two there and see which one does better. It could be that they want to do this as a temporary measure and they want to find someone else as a permanent addition. Like, and I feel like without the context of what their internal affairs are, I feel like it's really hard to comment. I feel like this is, at least from a gamer perspective, I feel like I'm happy with this. This is a good step in the right direction. I feel bad for the guy who had to go away, but hey, they needed.
Wait, do you actually feel bad for Jalen Brack?
I mean,
take that one back.
He made a lot of money. I'm sure, and I'm sure he'll get hired somewhere else. The company needs something new. And the same
Do you
thing.
think he's going to get hired somewhere else?
Who hires him now? Oh, that's really interesting. Who hires J. Allen Brack at this point? Do you think that he gets hired again?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if he wants to, I think he definitely gets hired.
Who the fuck would do? Oh, man,
I think he's got a golden
that.
parachute, and he's gonna just.
Yeah,
I think he's gonna disappear, dude. I think he's gonna disappear.
That's how this works, Potion.
If
he got a golden parachute.
Saying if he wants to, right? If he wants to, he has enough money where he doesn't have to worry about that anymore. So I think he could easily get picked up over at like Moonshot, which is that like Blizzard 2.0 studio that the previous CEO of Blizzard.
Do you think they want fucking J. Allen Brack's baggage, bro? No shot.
Bro, I don't know. Like I'm saying, like he could go for like a passion project. Right, he'd go for a passion project and start up his own like a little baby studio, and just to go for passion projects for fun.
I think that's his only option. I think starting his own studio would literally be his only option, and hiring someone else to be the face of it.
Yeah, imagine applying for a job for that studio though. He would have such a workforce problem. I'm telling you, this is how it works, Potion. Right? I follow this stuff all the time.
Yeah,
he got a golden parachute. He got a bunch of money. He's not going to come back. If he does, that's cool. We'll talk about it then. But speculation on that is he's 99% chance we'll never hear his name again, and we'll die without hearing it.
Speculation on both sides, all right? It's not like it's gospel one way or the other.
I don't know, man. I think the second that another gaming company hires that guy, the internet explodes. Do you remember what this guy was responsible for? Like all the fucking documents of people coming in and reporting to him directly about shit that they happened and him not doing a goddamn thing about it. All that resurfaces all over again. And the new company now has to deal with that.
Right.
And just get blown up on social media. And like,
you think in like a year or two from now, it's going to be still directly tied to him?
No. Yeah, of course. He was the head for the last 3 years. It is his fault. It is
maybe in 20 years. Maybe in 20 years he could do something.
Long time.
I'm serious. Maybe 10, but 10's not enough. Seriously, man, he's fucked. He's going to be under the radar, living wealthy, and off the grid.
That's not a bad life, honestly.
It sounds like he got off easy. Considering the shit that bro, did you read the documents? Oh,
I haven't looked into the details of it.
Yeah, I think he got off easy. I would not be surprised if there doesn't end up being criminal charges at the end of this.
So I was underneath the impression that this was just he was being let go as a surface level thing, not like deep rooted problems, because I have not read into like what his
you think
level
he was
of responsibility
a sacrificial lamb?
Yeah,
it doesn't matter. Even if he was, it doesn't matter. He's guilty. Even if he was the fall guy, he is guilty and will always be guilty. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
I think, like, at least for me, without really, I'm ignorant in this conversation topic, right? But as an ignorant person, I blame Bobby more than I blame the CEO of Blizzard, right? And that's who I would want to get out of there, would be Bobby instead. That's just me as an ignorant gamer, and maybe that's not a smart approach to that, but that's at least how I currently think.
I think you can blame Bobby for a lot of things about, the way that the companies are monetized and the way the culture of those companies has moved more towards, greedy cash grabs rather than actual passion projects that people love to play. Mm-hmm. But I don't think you can blame him for the culture of Blizzard specifically. I mean, he probably doesn't even live in the same city as the Blizzard offices. Like he's pretty far removed from that stuff. J. Allen Brack was the one that people were coming to after, company parties saying like, hey, so-and-so spread a bunch of nude photos of me at our Blizzard Christmas party. Can you do something about that? And, Brack's over here like, oh yeah, I'll talk to him. Right. And then like the guys at the company for another 10 years. So, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of weird shit in those documents. If even half of it is true, then yeah, he's got to go.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. With the context of that makes a lot more sense to me, honestly. Like why you guys were saying that. What do you guys? I guess another company that has been pivoting a lot because of recent stuff has been Black Desert and Pearl Abyss. I mean, New World had a closed beta, and I mean, it feels like they're squirming underneath someone's thumb right now because they delayed Crimson Desert, which I thought. I guess I'm not surprised it got delayed. I am surprised about when they announced they delayed it. Right, the timing is why I feel like is strange about it, not necessarily the announcement itself. But they announced they're delaying it more or less indefinitely. And this happened like basically 1 week into the New World closed beta. What do you guys think this means?
The language around Crimson Desert was definitely a little weird. I mean, what was it? The end of was it 2018 or 2019 when we went to Korea? It was a while ago when they announced
19.
that shit.
It was 19.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't know. The game went from being like their next flagship MMO to being a single player game that might have some co-op to being something that we don't even know. It sounded like they were just saying it was a delay, but the way they worded it, it was almost like they weren't sure if the game was ever going to come out. So, like, I don't know. How did you guys read it?
Can I copy paste everything I said about AOC and just put it on Crimson Desert? Because it's basically this, except for they're not taking money, right? Like they want to make this game. They want to make a game. They want to make a game. They want to make an MMO. They want to make another MMO. They want to make a really cool single player game with MMO quality. Is it an MMO? Yeah, it might be an MMO. We're gonna delay it. This game's probably not coming out.
This is my logic on it. I think
Did they have what was the delay? Like, did they have a release date?
They said nothing in that whole thing. Yeah, they said later this year, like winter of this year.
So they originally said the game's coming out in winter, and now they're delaying the vague, not exactly release date. I mean, I don't know if that's that big. Like, they didn't even have an actual date, right? They just had like a quarter.
They said.
So do you think they were doing this for attention then? Like, hey, we're still working on this.
No, I think that company, the management of that company, I think is an atrocity, dude. I think that they're boosted by the amount of whales who hand them billions of dollars through BDO, but the actual like management and administration of that company is a disaster. And maybe that's changing in the last couple months. You know, maybe like all their streamers quitting and New World and all these other games being around the corner. Lost Ark is another big one. Maybe they're finally getting a sense of urgency and actually waking up out of their cash-filled slumber and realizing that they need to actually make some fixes. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's been some internal leadership changes that, haven't been well publicized. Maybe if you looked into their shareholder meetings or whatever, we could get some interesting tidbits. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if certain people got moved around or demoted or taken off of one project and stuck on another one, because there's got to be something. I mean, the amount of stasis that company has been in for the last 3 years is astounding. Like,
yeah. So this is my thoughts on it, and maybe I'm just being I'm looking a little bit too hard for a solution. And maybe there's not one. So basically, New World comes out. They're using this as a way to judge where they're at in the genre. They see New World blow up. They have to pay New World. They have to pay Amazon, New World, for that with Twitch drops. And I feel like they're really threatened by that, and they don't see BDO as being able to conquer New World. And they see that, I think they're basically almost throwing in a towel with new BDO at this point. And the reason they're delaying Ashes here, I mean Crimson Desert, is to add more MMO features. If you look at what they say about their game now, they've redone it again, and they say that it's a single player game where once you're done, you can create your own customized character and enjoy an online experience. Which screams to me Red Dead Redemption Online, where you can have a single player campaign and you just make your own character after that, and it's an online MMO. It's a baby MMO, but it's an MMO. And I think that's what they're probably going to be doing, is they don't see BDO doing that. If you also looked at they announced in BDO that they're going to increase costume prices. Literally the exact same time we're increasing costume prices in
That's
BDO.
a good point.
And
I think you give their marketing team too much credit on their market research. I don't think they're really aware of other games' popularities and stuff. Maybe recently, but
well,
I mean, you say that you correlate what happens in BDO to other games pretty often, and
Well, that's because that's the only reason
think
we
they're
can think of
lucky.
for why there's these extraordinary delays in content.
Well, you got.
And
I don't think they're that competent.
But
Though.
it's not very hard to think. You don't think very hard about it. Look, they literally started Twitch drops the day that New World closed beta started. They ended them literally the day after New World closed beta. It's not like I'm like grasping at straws here.
Okay. No, I'm not saying that, right? I'm not saying, well, you're just dead fucking wrong.
Sure.
I'm kind of like thinking that that's really obvious. Okay. I think it's a little bit of both, right? The truth is probably somewhere in between, right? Everything lives in a gray area.
Yeah, for sure.
I think you almost certainly give the marketing team way too much credit, but Twitch drops on top of that. But they've been running Twitch drops. When's the last time you didn't have Twitch drops on BDO? Like right now is the first time, right?
Well, they had no Twitch drops and then as soon as the closed beta came out, unannounced, they did a stream they did a stream of Ataraxion. They announced Ataraxion before for the release date of New World closed beta. Like they did so many things around New World closed beta, and now it's just silence, no content, no nothing. Like literally all they're doing is like they had like 3 messages from like Jae-hee Kim. He did like his own personal stream answering questions to the viewers, and like had this huge post on the website about all the things he's doing. If you look on like the if you look in the podcast notes, you can see the number of changes they made on Global Lab. Let's look at these. Right, it's crazy. Unknown Adventure is now above the Gillies, so Gillies can be seen. You can't see their name, but you can see Unknown Adventure above them to track
Unbelievable.
them. Unbelievable. Channel cooldown changed from 15 minutes to 10 minutes. Corsair bombs. Recovery has been nerfed on recovery centers in Node Wars. More skill points at old grind spots like Valencia. What's it called? Dregan and some other place I forgot. So buff skill points at these old grind spots, which have been out of date for literally years. The tent menu when you're repairing your gear doesn't disappear when you get attacked by mobs anymore. The season graduation is happening on the 11th, the same time as Corsair Awakening, right? Perfume cooldown is now 10 seconds instead of being 20 minutes. That's been like that for years, right? They're adding a pause and unpause function to a loot scroll. So you can just pump all your loot scrolls in there and then pause it and unpause it whenever you want. I think there's a 5-minute cooldown, so you can't abuse it for like elites or something. Potions are being half weight now, right? You can now pre-order the same thing you already pre-ordered. So if you pre-ordered 50 relics and it went through, you can now pre-order another 50 of them at the same exact price. Same thing if you're listing 50 relics and you want to relist another 50, you can relist it again. All this is just in one patch of this quality of life. And if you look at our regular patch notes, right, Siege AP/DP cap for all Siege buildings now has been applied. And so, like, before that was uncapped, apparently. Any guild can now siege even tier 1s. War heroes are now limited to 5 in BDO officially for offense and defense. Spirited Battle, which is a new node war mechanic, has been added to BDO's Node Wars and Siege.
So what? I have just no idea what explains this. Like, to me, like, do you think there's just a faction within Black Desert? You think there's like 5 devs from the old days who are just like screaming at Jae-hee Kim, like, please let me do what I want? And he's like, oh, maybe later. And then finally he's like, okay, you guys can fix the game now. Like, why all of a sudden so many actual good changes? Because they've clearly been trying to make...
It's your video.
I don't think it is, man. Like, they've obviously been trying to make the game better for years, and they literally just couldn't figure out how. So
it was a catalyst.
What clued them in?
I think what it is that they've been trying different things to try to find something that sticks. They tried dungeons. Dungeons really didn't stick. They've been trying to release new game zones. New game zones aren't really sticking to people. They tried doing Hadoom. It sort of did it, but not really. And I think this is the next line of things that they're trying to see if it's going to stick, if people actually like this. I think it's just the next thing in their book that they're trying to see. I think they're really afraid of New World, and of these other MMOs coming out. Lost Ark is about to come out, and it's going to rock their world, bro. Like even the closed beta, BDO lost 2,000 players on average on Steam alone from just the New World closed beta, not even the launch. And that's with them running drops and dropping content and all this stuff.
I'm looking at the 6-month curve for BDO, and it's actually very interesting because BDO seems to have hit like an all-time high on Steam in March of this year. They had 40K, which I don't think they've ever been higher than that. Maybe, I don't know, maybe there was for another anniversary, but for 5th year anniversary, they have 40K players. Within a couple months after that, they're down to like 15K.
Whoa.
Like that's a massive drop. And then it spikes back up to like 25, 30 with the new class. And then, a couple weeks later, it drops back down into the 20s. So like they're seeing major problems with retention. Even when they do get these spikes of players, they cannot keep them in the game. Or they are keeping new players in the game, but old players are leaving in such mass that it's still just outweighing the amount of new players they're getting. I think it might be the second one, actually. I think that the old players leaving is really what's killing them, and I think they might finally be seeing that in whatever metrics they have.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. I mean,
I'm sorry. So I really do want to think that your video was some sort of catalyst for this change, because they've been getting this feedback. They have it somewhere, whether it's in a shredder, shoved in a compartment, whatever it is. They've had the feedback that we've been begging for. We're basically getting a fucking wish list. I'm saying I'm not even a part of this anymore. But right, if you were to, these patch notes were a wish list that I was losing my fucking hair over 2 years ago. Right, if they did all this 2 years ago, I'd be the happiest BDO player ever. Right?
Oh, yeah. If I was doing my weekly patch review right now, the things Potion just described, I'd probably say this is the best patch they've done in over a year. Maybe
at least
2 years.
Exactly. Yes. So I think that from the dinner we had, I don't know what I wasn't in Korea, but the dinner we had at 19 and talking to JJ, right? That was her name. And the amount of things that she had seen, there's no way that they haven't seen and internalized the massive popularity, thousands of comments on your video. That was a landmark thing that happened. And I think I admire your humility for thinking that it didn't matter, but I 100% think that it was at least a catalyst for them to go, all right, well, let's see what they've been saying, because these devs have just been locked in their own little fucking safe place, and now they're gonna have to fucking deal with it because they can't just, hey, we need more players, new class, dude, we're fucking, the devs are like, just fucking do, and we can't keep, it's something like that.
Yeah, I think that honestly, looking at these changes here, I think the idea of it being a catalyst is probably somewhat correct, because if you think about it, Morlow's video happened, then Fake Uniforms quit, Agent Russ is basically done with the game, right? Vert is played New World, we all played New World, right? Like, I feel like it just kind of
Matt was playing New World a lot. A lot of video streamers were playing New World during the beta.
I feel like it's they opened their eyes to pay attention, and then when they paid attention, they saw some scary shit. And then I feel like the more they're paying attention to this, the more scared they're getting, because they're just becoming more and more aware of exactly their position in the MMO genre and how vulnerable they truly are. It
can't just be fear, though. Like, you can't scare someone into doing their job better. Like, they have to actually have the information, be able to parse it, be able to do, like, they've clearly been trying to make the game better, and just scaring them doesn't suddenly give them the skill to do that, right? Like, or the talent to do that. I feel like it's got to be something bigger than that we don't know about.
I mean, I'm sure what part of it is that Pearlbis, the company, is treating the developers differently now. And that maybe the developers have won that argument a little bit, because Pearlbis has been arguing for money for a really, really long time. And I feel like something feels like the developers actually won an argument or something. And they're actually getting a little bit more say-so. And maybe that's because, maybe Pearlbis, the company, is rolling all the dice on Crimson Desert. Or maybe that's because, Probius learned something and they're giving more, I guess, leeway to the developers. I don't know what the case may be.
Well, I think Moreland is right. Like, I think so. I'm convinced that his video was a catalyst for a large movement. But at the same time, I think they compared that with the parsed information of, hey, so we're not only like not retaining new players in a way that we used to, right? If they stay for 60 days, they spend $200 or whatever. If they stay for 15 days, they only spend $50. And so we're only keeping them for 15 days. Plus, we're losing all these like veteran gamers that used to spend $100 a month or whatever the case was. And so I think that data matches up with Moreland's and the timing and all of that. I think it was a perfect storm, and they're freaking the fuck out. And they're like, oh, Crimson Desert? Okay, how about we gotta stop trying to paint the front of the house while the back's on fire, right? Let's put this fire out, then we'll get to Crimson Desert.
Well, the player retention thing is, at least for new players, is really easy to explain. They've basically created seasons which trains people to quit your game and come back.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it trains people to quit your game and come back. But the problem is, BDO is not a game you want to come back to after you played one season, because the next season is the exact same. So you're training people to come back, and then they come back, and you're like, this is not worth it. And then they just never come back. So I think, and that's a feedback loop there that keeps happening.
It would not surprise me if there's also just been a historic exodus of long-term players, because I think, like, the problem is, with a game like this, with any like kind of pay-to-win game, you get most of the money out of your customers in the first year that they're playing the game, right? Or maybe even the first 6 months or 2 months. Like, there's probably an inverse, with the exception of like Omega Whales, like estimate, there's roughly an inverse correlation between the time you play the game and the amount of money you spend. Like, I don't need to buy any more maids or storage or any of that shit. I don't need more pets. Like, you can try to get me to buy Cronstones, but I mean, unless the game's actually good and exciting, I'm probably not going to do that either. Whereas a new player, they need all that shit. They feel the inconvenience of having shitty pets. Like, they want to loot faster. They're excited about the game. They're way more likely to spend money. And I think the devs have gone so hard on making new players happy and just completely neglected their more loyal players, because that's what makes sense financially, except when it finally pays off, right? Like, it's finally coming home to roost now, and they're saying, oh shit, like, maybe we should actually do something to make the people who have supported us all these years happy, because they're leaving in droves, and that's starting to add up.
Yep. I definitely feel like you're hitting the nail on the head there, for sure. I guess so. Anyway, for people who are wondering what the big updates are to expect for next week for BDO, that's going to be graduation, which is complete your season pass and claim all the rewards. And I'm sure some minor quests to get your free Pinkaposha necklace. Corsair Awakening comes out, so you can graduate and then play Corsair Awakening on the regular servers. And there was something else. Oh yeah, the costume price increase is happening next week. So if you need Cronstones, next week will be a good week to get that on NA and maybe EU.
That costume price increase is 18 months late, dude. Holy shit, they took a while to do that, didn't they?
It was actually hard. When I saw that, I was like, oh, I cringed, right? I'm like, oh man, another stab into pay to win. I know, like, when you're in the world of BDO, it's like, fucking finally, right? But like, when you've been outside for as many months as I've been and you see that, you're like, oh, those poor people, their economy's based on these people swiping. I can finally really wrap my arms around the pay to win conversation that I just like. So I just no the whole time. Now on the outside, I'm like, oh yeah, that's.
You want to know how much it's going to cost for full pin now? It's going to be around $22,000 to $25,000, where it used to be around $33,000 to $35,000 or something like that.
It gets a little cheaper every time.
Yep, slashing off about $10,000.
Talk about devaluing gear, right? You should probably calculate how much it costs to be full pin C20 now, since that's so rightly available. I
gotta wait until this catfish finally crash.
I just calculated it full cost.
Yeah, I don't know how much that is. I'd have to look at it.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Probably like 50,000 or something like that.
You could do like two calculations. Full pin is this much, and full pin C20 is that much. That'd be interesting.
Just napkin math. It's not that good. It's probably off by a few thousand. But
that's why God made calculators.
I can't do that. I got to grind. No time.
True.
I feel so bad for
It's
you.
efficiency. Efficiency last.
It's a summary of playing BDO. No time to think. Gotta grind.
Yep. Yep.
Let me see if there's anything else in here. Oh, they made a nerf fix for realistic character movement. So all those characters that moved like molasses, all the new characters, they fixed all those movements so they're not clunky anymore.
Even on Guardian?
Even on Guardian, unfortunately.
Fuck. That made sense, man. Those thick thighs need a minute.
Yeah, I'm a little sad about Guardian.
I hated that shit so much, dude.
It's fixed
It made
on
sense
it's
on
fixed
Guardian,
on
though.
all the classes now, though.
Well, it's broken on Guardian.
That's true.
Bring it back. Bring it back.
Yeah, they broke it on Guardian. The Blackstone exchange is actually in the game. The exchange rate is basically really good for like 10. It's like average for. Here, let me pull it up here to get the exact rates.
All the exchange rates are good. All of them. We went over that. They're all good.
Yeah, I like the
They're all
exchange
really
rates a
good.
lot.
They're
I
all really
actually
good.
think that might be the best change they've put in the game in years. If I was still playing, if I was actually still willing to put my time into enhancing, I would feel much more valued now.
Okay,
Now that you
so
can do that.
as a fellow person who built their stream off BDO, right? And we both quit roughly at the same time, right, Marlon? How does seeing these patch notes and all these great things feel to you, right? Because I have an answer of how it makes me feel. I'm not asking you like, oh, are you going to come back to the game because they did, they made a chart. How does it make you feel?
Honestly, dude, I don't feel a goddamn thing. I think if this had happened 12 to 18 months ago, it would have revitalized me and excited me. And I'd be in the game right now, grinding hard as ever, so I could, get Blackstones and turn them into fail stacks and finally enhance with this new method that's improved. But I think by the time I quit that game, I was so far into the red of like exhaustion and fatigue. I don't feel anything when I see these patch notes. I have no desire to launch up the game. I'm not excited about what's to come. I'm not interested. I don't read the patch notes anymore. I don't check the BDO discords. I am completely just playing other games and having fun, and I never think about BDO outside of this podcast or people bothering me about it in Twitch chat.
Okay, somebody clip that right there and make that clip a command in your chat. That's exactly. It's so accurate. I don't feel nothing about it, but it's damn close, right? And we're having a similar experience where I kind of feel happy for the people who still enjoy BDO, that aren't like so burnt and scorned that they can still like find joy in the game.
Yeah, the game's actually good for them now.
Yeah. Like I'm happy for them, but it absolutely does not affect me in any way, shape, or form. Feel nothing exactly, except for I'm like, man, the people who are enjoying BDO are probably pretty happy about this. That's the only thought I have. I think you should clip that and make that a thing because you get bullied about that pretty often. And I think, a 30-second thing would be cool for them.
I think those people are doing drive-bys on my channel and don't really care that much about what I have to say. I don't think a clip will do anything for them.
Oh, okay, well, I tried.
I feel like for me,
I didn't ask you.
Well, I'm going to answer it too. For me, it's like it gets me.
Yeah, no,
it moves the bar back, right? Like I still feel like I'm in like I'm angry at the game developers for being dumb, but I feel like this earns a little bit more good faith, and it's not like they're in the positive good faith yet, but they're moving the needle back in the correct direction. I feel like with this, and. I feel like I mentioned this. I don't know if I mentioned this on this podcast or some other time when I was talking to you guys, but I feel like they need to do this, like 7 more of these. And if they did like, several more of these, I don't know what, there's not like a number you could place on that, right? But if they do several more of these, I feel like at some point I'd be neutral again or start being good. I'd start trusting the developers again and stuff. I don't know what number that would be or how much of the game they have to fix. Like, do they have to fix karma, to balance the game, balance large scale? Do they have to revitalize large scale PvP and balance it properly? Like, I don't know, fix the servers. I don't know how much they have to do until I'm actually
Fixing that code.
yeah, I don't know how much they have to do until I'm actually satisfied. Because it's sort of like you have to do a lot more once you've hurt someone's feelings, right? When you've hurt someone's feelings, you got to do a lot more to gain their trust again. And I feel like I feel like that's where they're at right now, and I don't know how
What
much.
a good analogy.
Yeah, I don't know how much more they have to do, but they'd have to do a lot more for. I think the people who played BO for a long time, they've got those scars, you know.
What an excellent analogy. I nail on the head, dude. Yeah.
And here I am
Yeah.
playing BDO though.
Yeah, I was literally, as you were saying that, watching you grind in your glasses. The reflection of it. Yeah, that's interesting. That's I think people ask you the wrong question. Is when I hear these patch notes, it's like, well, will this make you come back? It's well, maybe they should be asking, how do you feel about it? And you're just nothing. I feel nothing. Nobody feel when you quit this game, man, you quit hard.
Absolutely.
Have you? Are you gonna blow up your gear? Somebody told me you still had it installed. People like to speculate about you coming back and stuff. Are you ever gonna blow up your gear for the fun or the content of it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably like I don't. It's like I hate the game. I mean, this is why I went out of my way. I didn't want to make a quitting video. I made a quitting video because I was playing other games for 5 minutes on my stream, and all I heard from people was, "Did you quit BDO? Did you quit BDO?"
Yeah.
So I made a fucking video just to make those people happy and stop asking me about it. And the video accidentally ended up being 2.5 hours long because there was a lot of stuff that was pent up once I started talking about it. But like, I don't have any intention of making a statement about like, oh, I'm uninstalling or I'm blowing up my gear. I'm never going to play video again. I don't care. I'm not committing one way or the other. I'm not committing to a new main game. I'm just playing whatever's fun for me. And right now, BDO isn't fun. Will it be fun in the future? I don't fucking know. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Like, I haven't charted it out, right? Like, if I feel like logging into the game, if I'm bored one day in 6 months after I've, played Endwalker and played Lost Ark and I feel like going back to BDO, maybe I will, but I seriously fucking doubt that's going to happen at least this year. Like, there's just way too much other stuff to do that's more fun for me. It really is that simple.
So I took this as a challenge, right? We live different lives and have different priorities and stuff like that. So I felt like I was able to blow up my gear, and I did that. Not as I did it in front of like 40 people or something. It wasn't like a planned event. I didn't make a YouTube video about it. I didn't make some big hurrah. I just, mostly Kedekai just fucking goading me about it. I'm like, fine, I'll fucking do it. And so, but honestly, I'd been thinking about it for a couple days because I wanted to challenge myself as a content creator to actually just have fun on my channel, and not use BDO as a crutch. And so, even if it is fun in a year, I don't want to go back to that. For reasons I've stated on this podcast many times before, brought out the worst, bad community, weird shit, just bad memories, like Potion Shop said too, to earn trust back, you've got to do so much. And I don't think it's possible. So for me, I blew up my gear quietly. I made a post, hey, I'm going to blow up my gear in 5 minutes. And I did it like 2 minutes after I made that post on my Discord. So, for me, I'm challenging myself because I can do that because I have other sources of income and I don't need some kind of fallback. And I have never had more fun, and I don't think I've ever made better content. And I think I feel the same way about you, Marlon, in a couple different ways too. I hope you don't go back, but I understand your reasons, and it's very sound. If it's a good game, you're kind of stoic about it. If it's a good game in 6 or 12 months, I'll go back and play a good game when there's not other good games that I want to play. So I get that. I respect that. That's intelligence.
I don't think there's any chance that I ever like have it be a game that I play on a daily basis ever again. I don't think that, but a game that I log into once a week, maybe like, could I do like Tuesday night Node Wars with, some old friends? Yeah, I would do something like that, but there's no chance, I think, that it ever becomes like my main primary thing that I'm doing every day. That's just way sailed.
BDO's got some weird way of grabbing you, right? I tried to like figure out how I put this into my repertoire without it taking over. And I just fell right back into those old habits. And I started grinding, even though I didn't want gear, just out of habit. It was bad. It was so toxic for me. And so it'll be interesting. I would love to see you play BDO once a week and never off stream, just on stream, Node Wars, something like that. That would be interesting because I can't do that. Just like personally, right? But
I actually want to know.
That's kind of the direction my channel was going for a while. It wasn't quite once a week, but it would be like 2 or 3 times a week I'd play BDO, only on stream, only for 5 hours because I felt like I had to do it. And then I would go play something else, right? I'd go play Subnautica, or I'd go play, whatever else was interesting at the time, Dark Souls Permadeath. And I would only do like the bare minimum video I felt like I had to do in order to keep like that part of my audience interested or whatever. And you know, it's fun. Like, what's his
But
name?
making it
Frosty?
fun, right? Making
Yeah,
it fun
well,
for you
I
personally.
really wasn't having fun, even just playing it a couple days a week.
No, I know, but
it-
like the next iteration, if you ever boot it up again, I want to see you have fun with it like once a week or something, right? Like Noel's back, you know, and you just go in for Noel once a week on the Friday night fight night or whatever.
Yeah,
the
I
case
mean, I
is.
think that's the point I'm at now, is that
Yeah.
I'm not going to play the game unless I have fun doing it. I can imagine things that would still be fun for me to do in the game for sure, but none of that is going to be me putting 30 hours or more in a single week ever
Yeah.
again. No
Yeah.
chance. No
Good.
chance. Maybe if they do BDO 2 and they have a completely different cash up.
Dude, BDO Classic, I'm coming straight back, bro.
Yeah, I'll drop everything for that.
Yeah. I'll throw my phone in the pool, dude.
Bro, they're gonna get super desperate. I want to see what kind of monster, you know, a dog, what's it called? A fed dog is a happy dog, but a hungry dog is one that'll bite you. That's the one you gotta fear. Something like that. I don't know what they're saying is. But I feel like that's what BDO is going to be like, right? They're going to be that hungry dog looking for something.
I think they might be listening. You know, I think this might be the time. You know, if there's any,
Bro, with the
you know,
patch
merms
note?
or whoever is active in the partner Discord, man, you guys have a big responsibility because I think they're actually fucking listening.
They're not listening to any of
So-
them guys. That's for sure.
Hopefully not. Otherwise, Wizards are going to be fucking.
I
cracked in about
guarantee
2
you they're not
seconds.
listening to the partner Discord, and they shouldn't.
No, they shouldn't.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Well, they're listening to somebody. I don't know where they're coming up with these great ideas, but you know, it's what we've all been kind of collectively screaming about for a while. So I don't know. Anyway,
What's
I
the
think that's
one
all I have to
change
say
you
about
want
BDO.
made to BDO? Maybe they're listening.
Me,
Who, me?
I did it this week.
Well, what?
I've been- man, I'm consistently inconsistent. But the one thing I've definitely been screaming about is capping Mercs on Siege. They did it. Congratulations. Biggest change they could have done. Guild identity's back. 20 people dropped on Valencia this week, right? Siege is back, man. People are going to care about the consequence of Siege because of guild identity actually matters again. It was the biggest thing they could have done. It's the best thing they could have done. Everything else pales in comparison outside of buying New World's netcode and running with that. That's the second best thing they could do.
Yeah, true.
There's no guacamole on Moreland's food. He's upset.
No, the blessed servers are coming down for maintenance.
Oh, close. I was close.
So Final Fantasy 14. Want to jump into it?
Sure.
Up to him.
So Final Fantasy 14 news this week. They basically are unable. They made an announcement. The head director, what's his name, Yoshi or something? Yoshi P?
Yeah, Yoshi P. Yep.
He made an announcement apologizing that they can't buy more servers.
Wow.
Yep, they literally can't buy any more. The semiconductor shortage is preventing them from buying them. They actually made a post saying we're trying to pay more than the current marketplace value of servers, and we still can't buy them. So they literally just can't buy them right now. Apparently, at least the ones that they need for their servers, right? I'm sure there's some type of server that's available, but not the ones that work for their game.
Dude, I hope that from now on, every MMO studio will just study Yoshi P and the way he talks to his customers. It is such a fucking breath of fresh air, man. Like, even when it's bad news, it is just so pleasant to hear from that guy. And you can tell that he's being honest and that he's like literally trying his best, whatever it is, even if they're not quite, you know, even like with a situation like this where they literally cannot solve the server issue and like people are getting fucked and they're having to make really rough decisions, like not allowing trial players to enter servers with queues, which is really rough for free-to-play players. Like, a lot of them just straight up aren't going to be able to play the game anymore because the game's just too full and they have to prioritize their subscribers. But
Triage,
like, even having like to make decisions like that, the way that he communicates and the transparency and like the intent that you can sense behind his words is so much different than the weird like corporate PR that we're so used to dealing with these companies.
The blue text.
Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
hey, so we think something that
It's sincere, right? Like if I could summarize it, he's just sincere.
It's
and we have
direct. It's
no
one guy.
sincerity. We have no sincerity in this genre anymore.
It's one guy speaking directly and honestly, right? That's what it is. It's not like some ominous text, or it's not, this. Yoshi P's been there for fucking how long? Like, Jesus Christ. So like there's meaning to that, right? There's substantiation to it. So when he speaks, people listen, but he's also concise and direct. So I completely agree with that.
Also, it's not like we're adding a cash app where it's going to have items people want to buy.
Yeah. No, that's a good observation. Yoshi P is a big part of that for sure.
Absolutely, and he has the weight to actually make good choices for the players as well. Sometimes, right? Because he's been there and high enough ranked and everything.
Probably got one of the best reputations in the MMO community.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So some other changes they did here to in order to make this a little better is they made it where every server can have an additional 700 players logged in at the same time. They did this through optimizations and I don't know, magic.
Well, they added a kick out function. I get kicked out of the game when I'm AFK now, and yeah, and I don't think that was really a thing before. And in addition to that, so first of all, good on them for that was quick, right? Like they implemented that. They saw a problem and they did what they could. But second of all, like there was something that really stood out to me in the post. He said one of the things he wrote was, we're asking our players, like, if you go AFK, please log out of the game. And I've been doing that. Like normally if a dev told me log out of the game so other people can get past the queue, I would fall out of my fucking chair laughing, dude. Like absolutely no shot, homie. I'm going to run an auto hotkey macro to run in circles to ensure that I stay logged in forever. I'm not sitting in that fucking queue again. But for whatever reason, when Yoshi P asked me to do that, all right, if I'm going to eat dinner, I'll log off and I'll sit in the queue again when I get back.
He's fostered goodwill with the community, right? That's what that is.
It's really just a goodwill thing. Yeah, dude. Like the vibe of that game is so much different. It like brings out a different side of me.
Well, so I think there's that, but I know you hate it when I bring politics into this, but right after 9/11, George W. Bush, I think he was a terrible president, but whatever. One of the best things I've seen a leader of this country, of the United States, do is right after. He's like, people keep asking me what they can do. What can they do to help? And he goes, go shopping. Just go shopping. This is probably the smartest thing that guy's ever said. And so just like really basic, like, how can we help this game that we love? How can we help this country that we love, right? When that's the question, being brave enough to give like a really achievable, easy answer kind of empowers everybody as a community.
I think it's more than that though, because how many people heard him say that and went, fuck this country? You know what I mean? Like you have to actually want to help in order for an answer.
Well, there's still people who aren't logging off, right? There's still people who aren't logging off.
I bet you if you did a percentage of people in FF14 who were logging off after Yoshi P asked them and compared that to the percentage of people who would log out of WoW if that was congested and whoever the fuck asked them, I bet you it would be 90% versus 10%.
Okay, Yoshi P's not grabbing pussies. That's a big fucking difference, you know? Like
even before the controversy, though. Even before the controversy,
yeah. Well,
I massive difference.
I
understand the point you're making, but so I'm trying to say that I'm trying to compliment him. I don't necessarily think it's just because it's Yoshi P. I think having the bravery to do that, because I'm sure there was plenty of people who said fuck you or whatever, even though it's Yoshi P. Not a lot of people really look that deep into these games. They're just, I play Final Fantasy, they want me to log off. It's in your mind. At least it's in your mind. It's good management, right? It's good management.
It's
all things considered.
I do think like your analogy sucked, but you bring up a good point that there's actually two different factors there, right? You have to have the knowledge that you need to say that. And that's something that a lot of industries don't have, right? And that's something he identified as not only did he have the good faith, but he also had the wisdom to ask for that.
I stand behind my analogy, for the record. I do. That's a good analogy.
So, what was the other thing they had in the post? There was one other thing. Oh yeah, it ends up being 18,000 players. That they total they got added, which doesn't sound like a lot. But that is, you gotta realize people don't play a game all day. Most people don't. So that 18,000 is more like probably like 100,000 or 200,000 players can play the game uninterrupted now because people are just cycling through now. with those extra spots. And something else that wasn't related to his post is this is actually kind of crazy. They banned 3,780 accounts for RMT and prohibited activities.
Every week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they do that nonstop. They're just fucking slamming people left and right, dude. It gives me a massive justice boner.
I think we talked about that, right? When we were talking about Juju and that whole thing. She was the only person banned for RMTing.
Yeah.
And 14
What a
is out
coincidence.
there.
What a coincidence that someone who had a viral clip of RMT was the only person who got caught for RMT that week.
And 14's out there clapping thousands on the week, bro. What does that tell you? What the fuck does that tell you?
I saw that and I was like, holy smokes! Like the difference there is just massive.
That's all you should take from that too.
Absolutely. And I think the only other thing that I got this week for it was that they're unable to visit their servers due to coronavirus and restrictions because of that. So that's another thing that's hurting their ability to...
Yeah, Japan has had one of the worst outcomes during the pandemic, so I think their travel restrictions are pretty severe.
Yeah. What else is going on in Final Fantasy these days? I guess everybody's just waiting for the new update coming in. Was it
There's
November?
a plus 50% gold saucer event right now. So I've just been, dude, I play so much Triple Triad and fucking Leap of Faith. I spend like 30% of my time in that game at the casino, and I'm so far behind in like actually being ready for the expansion. I'm so fucked.
But 50% bonus.
Yeah, that's
In
what I'm
Triple
saying.
Triad!
Everyone's like, you're never gonna finish. You're never gonna be ready. I'm like, but 50% bonus, dude.
I'm going to have to get in once they settle things down in Final Fantasy, and then just go through some Triple Triad and stuff, and enjoy it. I have to know. I have to know what it is. I've heard too much talk at this point about it to not give it a try.
Pretty cool. I had fun when Moreland taught me. I want to play more of it. I almost wish it was a standalone, but I don't want to turn it into like a fucking Shadow Arena.
I mean, we could make a standalone Triple Triad in probably an hour if we get a coder. It's not that complex.
No, it's not, and that's the beauty of it, right? Is the simplicity of it. Once you
NFT
taught,
Triple Triad standalone, let's go.
Let's start a Kickstarter, right?
For people who don't know,
Yeah.
that's like a gambling thing that they have in the game. That's just for fun, and you can make in-game currency with it, right? If you're good.
You make like casino currency. You don't make like real currency, but you can use the casino currency to buy some cool stuff. You can buy like mounts and other cards and costumes and stuff.
Okay.
And it's just fun. It's just fun to smoke people at cards, you know? It's fun to see your name up on the leaderboard.
It's fun to hear useless squeal.
Yeah, but that's true of any game.
Yeah, but it's pretty easy when you're... Anyway.
We mentioned Bless Unleashed is now released on PC, but that is a tongue twister and a half. Bless
Apparently.
Unleashed is released on PC. We talked about it a little bit with you, Merle, with your introduction, what you were doing this week. What do you think about it? Like, give us like an in-depth like experience of what you have so far.
I think we already...
It is an excellent game. I followed it all the way from the Xbox to the PC launch. They wanted to port this game a long time ago, and they delayed it several times to get it right. The UI is still not perfect, but the game itself is the design choices that they've made. People are still very upset about Bless Online, and everyone's
Rightfully
review
so.
bombing it on Steam. Tons of negative reviews on Steam of people who played the game for 13 minutes. You know, they just downloaded it, left a negative review, and uninstalled it without actually trying it. And I get why people are upset about Bless Online. I was too. It was an atrocious game. But these devs are like, you can tell from the way that the gameplay has shifted since the Xbox version that these are not devs that are just trying to polish a turd and cash out. They are going in and like rooting out the fundamental flaws with the game and making it more fun, making the progression more interesting, making things easier to understand in a way that someone who is actually playing the game and understanding the game would do it. And I've followed that progress very closely, and I think they've done an excellent job. I think it's very sad that they have the Bless name attached to this. I don't know if I'll ever be able to get away from that. I hope that they're able to do like a Final Fantasy 14 kind of thing where eventually people come around and see that like they have done the work and they have made the game better. But I don't know, man. Like it's pretty toxic right now. Like it's really hard to stream this game because of how toxic people are about it. People who don't even play it, they just come by just to bitch.
That's too bad, man.
I mean, I guess if like the question then comes down to like, are they going to have the opportunity to foster enough goodwill to kind of right that, to right that wrong that wasn't even theirs, really, to be honest, right?
Well, they got 20K players on Steam right now, which is decent.
That's good. That's good.
Considering all the shit that they have to deal with. That's a decent amount. So I hope that goes up over time as people try the game out. But I think a lot of people are not going to try the game just because it has such a bad reputation from having the word bless attached to it.
That's almost as mean as BDO.
Yeah.
Have they had any server problems or anything like that?
No, the servers have been excellent. The only legit gripe that I've seen with this game is the cash shop.
What did
the cash shop's not nearly as bad as BDO or a lot of these other games, but they have some pretty expensive boosts that you can buy to level up faster or to get more star seeds, which is like the end game currency that you need. They have some like 40 and 50% boosts that you can buy that are basically weekly subscriptions. And they have that on top of the regular like monthly sub where you get bonuses already. So they have like a premium sub and then like an extra premium sub. And I think they got pretty greedy with that, and that's going to be a turnoff to a lot of people. So I wish they'd chill out on that a bit. But it's not like you can pump thousands of dollars into the game and just buy all the best gear and smoke people, right? Like you still have to play the game, but you do get like boosted levels and boosted experience and stuff if you pay for it.
It's a little unfortunate that they went that route because I feel like they could have fostered a lot of goodwill if they hadn't done that. But I guess the question then comes down to like, maybe their goal is to get enough money so they can make another game that doesn't have the Blessed name on it.
I don't know why they kept the Blessed name this time around, to be honest. I don't know. I don't know, like how do you pull off a Realm Reborn with a game like this? Like, do you have to already be? Because part of the problem is the publisher too, right? Like NeoWiz, people don't trust them, and I feel like FF14 didn't have that baggage. They made a shitty game and then they shut it down, and then they made a good game, and there wasn't like a greedy publisher that was attached to that was making the reputation worse along the way. So I think that's a challenge too. I also think they're not doing a good job of communicating. Like if the guys who made Bless Unleashed would do like a no clip sort of thing, if they would just sit down and like talk to a streamer or a YouTuber and explain what happened with Bless Online and how the team is different now and how it's like not the same devs and how they licensed assets from Bless, but it's not the same game. It's just the same IP. Like if they would just sit down and explain it to people, I think they'd have a better shot. It's very vague right now. And people are like, is this the same company? Is this the same people? Like, is this just another cash grab? Like there's just no information when people go and look for it. And I think that's also a big problem.
I mean, I feel like as long as you're able to make ends meet, business wise, then you can, and then if it's a factor of time, you can just slowly earn that good faith back, right? By making good choices, by making good decisions, by making good content, you can slowly earn that back, no matter how far you're in that pit. Because given a factor of time, like people forget about even murder and stuff like that, bro. Like I'm serious. Like
Bless Online was almost murder.
Yeah,
not quite.
I feel like given a factor of time that they could work through that. I feel like the question comes down to is how they can monetize the game in a way that will keep their ship afloat and it can continue developing it and then continue earning that good faith. Because like Last Oasis, they have an awesome game, but they're just running out of money to like do stuff, and so like they don't have the time or the developers or like the ability to really fix what they have, and they have an awesome an awesome base. They just need to fix it up a little bit. And so I feel like that's really the question.
I don't know what kind of finances they have, but I definitely don't get the sense that this is a game that was launched in August because they ran out of money. I get the sense that this is a game that launched yesterday because they felt like it was ready to launch, and that's rare to see with an MMO. So I commend them for that. Like they wanted to launch it earlier this year. It wasn't ready. They delayed it several times. And at this point, like this game is ready for launch. Of course, there's still things that could be improved, but this is a game where I don't feel like I'm playing an incomplete or a rushed game at all. So, I think they can earn it back. I mean, maybe they can pull a No Man's Sky, right? Like it'll take a while, but maybe Internet Historian will do a video on this game, and then people will be able to see. But like I think the problem is that, again, like even with No Man's Sky, like they were pretty visible about like the changes that they were making and what the plan was, and like how they were going to come around, and they apologized for the mistakes they made. I haven't seen anything like that from the Bless Unleashed devs, and I think that would go a long way if they would just come out and say like, yeah, this was the guy who was in charge of Bless Online, we fired him, or we're not even the same studio, because I don't even know if it's the same studio. I don't even know if it's the same devs that's making it. It could be a completely different group of people, and the only thing they have in common is NeoWiz and the Blessed name, right? Like, I don't know. And people ask me all day long, and it's like, I wish someone would interview these guys and figure that out. I've tried messaging some of them on Discord, but I haven't gotten a response yet. So I don't know. I'll keep poking them.
Yeah, I'll see if I can dig up some information on it. Just get like some basic knowledge on it. It would be nice. So we have like, at least we know what direction we're pointing,
Right.
Is there anything else? I can't think of anything else. We kind of burned through all our topics.
I'm trying to pick my shoes and my outfit for the casino night tonight. I have to dress, quote, smart to get into the casino. And I've got like this boring suit and tie on, and I'm trying to figure out if I can like flare up the shoes and like not get kicked out. You know what I mean?
In GTA.
But it's a bunch of British people, so I don't know if they're really gonna like understand Florida drip. You know what I mean? Like if I walk in a nice suit and tie, unbuttoned, two button jacket open, button down collar, dress slacks, modern belt, and then like lime green sneakers. I don't think they'll get that.
Get them out of here.
Yeah, I think I might just have to go safer.
I take that as a no.
This has been a long podcast. We can wrap it up.
Apparently, it's a no. All right, so episode 56, right? This was episode 56. Long podcast, probably one of my favorites. We've had some bangers, man. Ever since we took this thing just straight off the rails of only BDO, we've had some excellent conversations. So I want to personally and individually and collectively thank Potion Shop and Moreland for the conversation. Thank you, guys. If you want to boast about what you're doing on your stream real quick for the remainder of the week or the start of the new week, Moreland, what do you got going on, man?
I'll probably be playing a lot of Bless this week. I don't think it's going to be like something I sink a ton of time into in the long run, but it's a super fun side game, and I'm enjoying the journey. So, I'll continue into end game, see how that feels, try some PvP. The way that they've redesigned combat and the skill builds in the game since Xbox, it's like completely different now. I really like what they've done. So I'm going to stick with it for a while. And then once that starts to wane, probably back to 14. I got a fuckload that we need to do before November. So, before New World, really. So, there's a lot to do right now, man.
Potion, what's up with you, man?
So the plan is work on some videos on BDO. You need to make about, I think it's like around 25 videos, something like that, for the old Lucent Shop channel. There's some easy videos. As far as BDO goes, I'm going to continue grinding and trying to get this hard capped energy. These Great Mighty Stones are impossible. I got 670,000 trash loot at Blood Wolves, and I still don't have one. So I think I'm going to run out of loot scrolls before I get it done. So anyway, I'm just going to keep on working on that for the foreseeable future. I'm currently working on getting all the podcasts caught up on Spotify.
Appreciate
I
that.
uploaded 5 before today, and I should upload the other rest of them tomorrow and get all that knocked out. So that's what I'm working on that. Trying to think if there's anything else There's like still little small things in life where after my Infinite stream and New World, I'm still trying to get caught up. Like, so probably like mowing the grass and tidying those things up a little bit better. I don't know, edging the sidewalk and stuff. Some IRL stuff.
Earning your keep. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So, but as far as the stream goes, just regular times, probably do like 6 to 8 hour streams, and then probably get you guys on Saturday.
For me, I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed with GTA 5 RP. I could have talked about that for 3 hours. The stories, the interactions I've had. I'm going to go through my VOD and I'm going to pull out a really good YouTube and I'm going to make you guys watch it. It'll be 20 or 30 minutes long, but you're going to watch it. I'm having a ton of fun. This is the most amount of fun I've had on stream, both through New World and now through GTA 5 RP. I promise I'm still working on Dark Souls, but I'm so grasped onto this RP thing right now. I'm not going to let it go. So come by, give it a chance, and have some fun. If it looks boring, wait 15 minutes. Something will happen, I promise. So on behalf of everybody, Moreland TV, Potion Shop, Tim Allen 1337, that's me. I want to thank everybody for watching. We're normally live on Wednesdays with Kerr as well.
I miss him.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I said Wednesday. We're normally live on Friday, 3 p.m. Eastern, with Kerr as well. You can catch us live or on Potion Shop's YouTube or our Spotify. Thank you guys for listening and watching, and we'll catch you all next week. Oh, I'm so hungry. I'm sorry.